Errata Chantant stands atop the mobile fortress called the Anvil by whose striking a star was forged. She surveys the walls of the city that will soon be hers. It is the flagship weapon of her legion. It has served dutifully for a millennia, and it has broken 1,000 sieges before this one. At its rumbling heart sits an immense fundamental engine, tended by 7 of the Legion's most talented thaumaturges, who marshal and channel its miraculous energies. From her perch atop the glittering tower, Errata watches her army of the faithful march on Coronatus. They will scale its walls, they will subjugate its people, they will claim the beacon, and after that, the true prize of Imber. If the people behind those walls prove more resilient than expected, if the Ring and its heretical allies manage to marshal a final stand against her legion, then she will activate the Anvil, and its fundamental powers will unmake them. Wipe away whole districts of this provincial outpost until they beg for the mercy and forgiveness of the Lilac Legion. Errata Chantant knows that she stands on the cusp of something revolutionary, of possessing something that will change the Concordat at its core, and finally put them on the true path to the Builder. Perhaps, one day, they will call her Hierophant, and place the 7-spired crown upon her head. But that is all in the future. Today is the siege. Howdy, and welcome to Risky Standard, an actual play podcast featuring a rowdy group of best friends playing tabletop role-playing games. I am your host, and usually GM, but today we're playing a little GM-less game. But it's me, Mitch Broesder. You can find me over on Twitter at MagnesiumB, and you can find the show on Twitter at Standard Risky. With me today, I got Pete Loftus.
Hey, what's up? That's right. I'm Pete. You can find me on Twitter, though there's not a whole lot going on there, at Chip Enjoyer. But you can find me even faster than that on the Discord. We'll drop the link in the show notes, but come on down, say hi. We're strapping in for maybe the penultimate or maybe the very end of this season. So as I choke back tears and swallow my fears and concerns, I'm ready to hop into a bit of a love song to Beamsaber.
And we also have Malcolm Hall here tonight.
Hey, what's up? That's it. Moving on.
Okay, you did say it would be short. Yeah.
And, of course, young Timothy Manns.
Great to be here. And just a reminder, this episode is brought to you by Chesterfield Kings, the smoothest smoke you can get. Remember, kids, it's not too early to start working on your Halloween costumes. Let us know what you're going to be in the Discord. Let us know.
Yeah, and if you're a kid, hop on in the Discord.
No. Over 18, preferably.
I said kids in the radio style.
We don't want any.
I also do not know if this episode will be out before Halloween, so that's a fun test. We'll see.
Well, yeah, after Halloween shows your Halloween costume.
Yeah, shows your costumes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But be thinking about them now. And today we are not continuing Beamsaber by Austin Ramsay, although you can still find links to Austin Ramsay's itch.io page where you can pick up Beamsaber and some of the other interesting supplements for it over there. We have not shouted it out before, but if you are looking for more Beamsaber after this season is over, Austin is overseeing a really sick mega game of Beamsaber with over 30 players. It's an actual play called KalazCon. If you go over to Austin's Twitter page at NotAnIn, you can find links to all of that. I'm sure you can find it on any of your usual podcast distributors of choice as well. But it's a really, really interesting take. The actual play concept, I think like a mega game is super interesting. So I just wanted to shout that out before we go on here.
Yeah, KalazCon is sick.
Reminds me of my idea for a mega game that nobody wants to play with me called Super Risk-Tego. Been talking about it for years.
Oh, yeah.
Where you play a game of Risk, but instead of rolling the dice, you play a game of Stratego.
So if anyone else wants to kind of live in a prison of strategy that never really ends, you can hit up Malcolm in the Discord. I guess he's maybe living there or is within that. I'm not sure.
We'll make a channel for it, don't worry. But the reason we are not continuing our campaign of Beam Saber today is because we are instead finishing this season's story by playing a game of Follow by Ben Robbins. You can find links to Follow and Ben's other games in the show notes as well. So just a quick recap. We played Follow in our last session, and it is a game that has us following the story of a fellowship of characters who are on a quest together. Today, our quest is the Siege. The city of Coronatus is under siege by the invading force of the Concordat's Lilac Legion. An army of soldiers and armors has marched on the city under the cover of a sandstorm, accompanied by the floating mobile fortress known as the Anvil. And we have said why this quest is difficult for our fellowship of characters, because the Concordat has an overwhelming force with strange and fundamental technologies, and the factions of our city are divided. Before I do a little recap of what we did last time, maybe we could talk about, we all have our main characters in today's game. We also have some secondary characters. So maybe we could run really quick through who we're playing today, what we want from the quest, and what we want from each other. Because I am not the GM today. I am playing a character as well. And that character is Seldom Rowe, the attendant of the apparatus, who wants protection from this quest. I want to protect the apparatus and its presence in Coronatus. And what I want from Carta, but Carta won't give me, is affection. I want a genuine human connection with Carta, to be acknowledged as a person with wants and needs, not just a friendly tech helper. And I'm also today playing the minor character of Jasper Som, one of the leaders of COG, kind of Carta's right-hand man in the coalition against Grenfield. What about you, Malcolm? What do you got today?
I'm playing as Desmond, as usual. What I want from the quest is to survive. Live to fight another day. What I want from Seldom, but you won't give me, is power. And access to the strange apparatic powers. Apparatic?
Sure. That probably is. That genuinely probably is like an adjective in the ring. I imagine.
Yeah. Access to these strange apparatic powers and admittance into this cultic inner circle that you seem to be a part of. My minor characters are, Zed and Bitter. I'm playing both as one. 2 as 1.
Nice.
It's package deal.
Yeah. I am playing as Ace Pilot, Rhodes Rampart. What I want from the quest is victory. I want to raise the city's defenses and repel the Concordat's assault. What I want from Desmond, but they won't give me, is leadership. I want Desmond to lead Thea Desdemona into the ring's defense of Coronatus. And my minor character, I'm playing as the young Luctorian idealist of the Open Palm Gates Technic, who is a girl.
Yes.
Which I forgot about on the first part of this. But
And what about you, Tim?
Yep, I will be, as always, playing our dear friend Carta Heshketh. And what I want from the quest is protection of the people who fought for the ring and the common man of Coronatus. What I want from Rhodes, but that he won't give me, is compassion, empathy for those weak or frightened to join in this fight. And my minor character is Eleanor Fade, who is the head of the ring group Threaded Needle, Chiropteran, trucker, smuggler, train enthusiast.
Train enthusiast, yeah. That's a good way to describe it. And so, yeah, that is who we are playing as. That is our fellowship for this quest of Follow. So the way this works, just as a quick reminder, we are going to be playing 3 challenges today. 3 challenges overall. Played our first challenge of our quest last time, and we'll play 2 more today. It is by the success or failure of these challenges that we will determine whether or not we succeed or fail at the quest as a whole, whether we are able to defend our city and repel the invaders, or whether Coronatus is lost to the Concordat. So yeah, last time we played our first challenge, which was to unify the city's rival factions. Our squad attempted to enlist the help of Rebus Actual and his criminal syndicate, the new People's Council of Coronatus, led by Thea Desdemona, and the citizenry of the city itself, led and armed by the members of COG. And we were successful in that challenge. Rebus Actual granted the ring's machine intelligence, known as the apparatus, access to his advanced surveillance network across the city, allowing the logistics engine to coordinate the movements of the city's defense force in preparation for the advance of the invading Concordat army. So now we have 2 challenges left to play through. Our success or failure at these will determine whether or not we are able to successfully defend the city itself. The way this works, we choose a player to pick the next challenge. It's got to be someone who has not picked one already, and I've already picked one, so one of you nerds has to pick the next challenge. Our quest sheet for the siege has a list of possible challenges. We will pick one from that list, and then we will answer a few questions about it, what makes it difficult, etc. And then we will take some turns playing scenes of our characters addressing that challenge. So is anybody who feels strongly about picking the next challenge already? Anybody wants to step up to the plate?
Yes, Pete? In the back?
He's raising his hand.
I think we should repel the invaders storming the walls.
Yeah, I second the motion. Timothy, how do you feel about that?
I'm going to say, yeah. I think we need to get him off our walls.
Quorum, motion passes.
We got to get him off the walls, baby.
Yeah. We're going to start operating the entire podcast under Robert's rules.
Wait, what is that?
It's like an administrative framework for operating meetings and both business meetings and then
a minor demon who created the rules of order for what has become the ruling kind of mental regime.
If you've spent a lot of time with a local DSA chapter, you've probably spent a lot of time having to deal with Robert's rules. Speaking from personal experience.
That's Robert Monopoly, a.k.a. Rich Uncle Pennybags from the game Monopoly.
There is also a version of it called Rusty's Rules, which is kind of a stripped-down, slightly more simplified one that gets used in a lot of unions.
It's it's like Robert's cousin Rusty.
Yeah.
That's for meetings in the garage.
Smoked pot before. So.
Yeah.
So, Pete, you have chosen our second challenge today, which is... could you repeat that for me?
Repel invaders storming the walls.
So repel invaders storming the walls. And so once you've chosen the challenge, the player who picked the challenge describes the problem that confronts the Fellowship and fleshes out the situation. Tell us what makes the challenge difficult and why we need to do it. But don't say anything about how we solve the problem. That's what we're going to do in our scenes. So you give us a little flavor. What makes this difficult and why is it necessary?
It's necessary because out of the storm have come a kind of fundamental armament way beyond what Coronatus was expecting. We talked about this a bit in the first act. The Ring's forces were marshaling in Sedge, anticipating an attack on kind of the Ring's de facto capital here on Imber. Instead, they brought it in their audacity to Coronatus, where the beacon is placed. It's difficult because they are attacking on 2 fronts, both from the north and the east. We also know that they're kind of driving some kind of, profane siege engine towards the city. I think probably long range, advanced scouts for the Ring probably flagged this as a anomalous signal. There's something here doesn't add up that they maybe haven't seen before. So we're outgunned, we're surrounded more or less, and are kind of on the back foot. Weren't anticipating it.
Yeah, that does sound difficult. So we know why it's difficult, right? We're outgunned, outnumbered, etc. So the player who picked the challenge chooses which main character they think would be the first to decide how to deal with this problem. You cannot pick your own character. Consider who in the Fellowship would take the lead for this problem, and their player will make the first scene.
I kind of think the most interesting intersection where we left off in Act 1 was with Des and Thea Desdemona in the pillars and the halls of power in Coronatus, where we started to see the civil defense force mount. So I think kind of between Des and Thea Desdemona, if the goal is repelling the invaders from the city walls, I think those two are primarily concerned with the city itself, whereas I normally may have said Rhodes, but I think Rhodes is a little more concerned with the eking out a victory for the Ring here.
Cool. So it sounds like Des is going to be the one to start us off. And then as a group, we decide how long we envision this challenge taking. It could be minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, or years. So get us all on the same page about how much time our scenes should encompass. I'm going to say it out the gate. This is probably, to me, this seems like hours, right? I imagine this is going to be brutal, intense fighting. But I feel like we don't have days on our side. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it seems like a long night.
Yeah.
Real long night.
I think it's like, a night probably.
But I don't think this is going to be like days. This is not like I think like a medieval, weeks long, slow strangulating siege.
They're
I
not
think this
setting
is
up camps outside the wall to send.
They are
waves.
marching.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, with all of that set up for this challenge, we are now golden. We're good to go. So whenever you're ready, Des, take it away.
We're back in the council chambers, right? And we're standing around, their big hall table, and there's sort of like a little holographic representation of Coronatus. Maybe not like super detailed, like it's not every building, but it's general streets, rampart
it's the
structure.
GTA map.
It's exactly. And we're standing around it. How many council people do you think are like remaining in the, what did we call it again? The
People's Council of Coronatus,
the free People's Council for Free Coronatus, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've been calling it just the People's Council right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because I think there is, I think like Alloy Braithlight and his allies in their like bunker are still referring to themselves as like the true Council of Coronatus. I think there's probably Thea Desdemona, and then like, let's say like altogether there are like 20 counselors supporting her. I don't think all those people are in this room, right? I think there's a handful of those people. But who else is there, right? Who's in this scene?
I think Des is there. Thea's there. These, maybe 10 other council people.
I think of there's that scene in like, I feel like The Last Jedi has a lot of this, of like characters are on a holo table and there's like a lot of background, like, aliens chattering to each other, looking at other holographic maps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can be one of those aliens if needed. In this.
I think I'm gonna, turn to Thea and I'm going to ask, do we have any idea of the state of the perimeter wall?
She's looking at this map, and I think, probably if I can throw something else in here, playing off of like this, what we did in our first challenge, right? We successfully unified the city's rival factions. I think we can see Seldom Row, I think, has like a terminal set up that has like apparatus cables running into this big holo table. And probably Rebus Actual is here, I think is in this room, right, as well, right? Maybe with Seldom, like they are integrating Rebus's illegal but extensive surveillance network with the apparatus's own.
Yeah, I imagine he like sort of would maybe like spend his time just like watching cameras.
Yeah,
of like not just the casino, but like the entire city. I mean, he's a bit of a voyeur.
Oh yeah. He's got like a big, like a end of Watchmen room with a million TVs somewhere in that glass house manner. But because of that, I think Thea looks at the map, which is like updating in real time with like we talked about it as not that detailed. I think it's like almost as if we can see the resolution increasing before our eyes as the kind of battered defenses of the actual city itself are combined with this like extensive surveillance network and the apparatuses like logistic engines.
Yeah.
She puts a hand on your shoulder and she says, "The forewarning that you gave me about what the Concordat were planning, what Alloy was doing, it let us stop them in a lot of places where they could have done more damage. We didn't stop everything. They were able to set charges, and I think she highlights a few sections of wall on the western wall, kind of closer to like Upper High Grove, which is this kind of like higher income district, abutting the Chantry of Dawn, which is like the city's like temple and religious district. I think they were able to detonate some charges there, but we were able to apprehend several of their agents before they actually were able to dismantle our defenses. You saved a lot of counselors' lives. You protected the beacon. We caught saboteurs trying to scale its sides before they were able to get inside." And so I think, that previous thing that you've done, I think has really mitigated the damage that the Concordat was able to wreak from the inside with its sleeper cells. I think, right now, the western gate is probably, I think, the most damaged. It has like the most weak spots along its length. I think that is probably what she highlights as like, this is where our forces, I think, need to be concentrated. The saboteurs that got past our units were able to dismantle some of the gun batteries there. We have armors. And she looks at like kind of the other members of the ring who are in this room, right? I don't know if Rhodes and Carta are like also somewhere in this background, right?
Are you there, fellas?
Yeah.
Are we in building or are we there like holographically?
I like that we're there. Let's say we're there.
Sure, let's say we're there.
Yeah, I think this is maybe like the big, like, everyone's here,
Yeah.
It's like, I think, there's like I think Thea says it, right? Within the hour, they're going to be at the gate. Desmond, I need someone in the ring I can trust. Do you have power here? Can you give commands? Can you tell them that we need those people at the Western Wall?
I can make a suggestion. And then there has to be a 2/3 majority vote, a verbal agreement. And I don't know. I'm just kidding. I think that I can make a suggestion. And I think that you can make a suggestion too. At this point in time, your word is as good as mine. We're all in this together. This isn't really a top-down kind of operation we're running to begin with, especially not right at this moment. No reason to believe that you are trying to lead us astray in this particular situation. So I think, moving forces closer to the Western Wall.
We have cog forces ready to take that wall. How many can the city give us? Rebus, do you have any other numbers? Like, if that's where they're needed, that's where they can go. But we need to know who we are sending so that we know who else will be there if they need to be backed up. If we need to send people to the north. What does the city have for us?
Thea looks from Carta to Des, and I think she starts tallying, right? Like the city has a handful, a dozen, maybe 24 armors, right? They are mostly like surplus Commonwealth units, like Hauberk, kind of like these like, a pennyroyal armaments supplied, like kind of like third party. There is the pillar statuary, right? That is, I think, maybe we saw those activating last time. The moving statuary, I think, are like maybe, there's like a half dozen of these. These are like some of the oldest and most powerful machines that the city can bring to bear, but there are not very many of them. But I think she also says, the keepers of the lighthouse, our military, are focused on one thing, protecting the beacon. If all else fails, we fall back to there. If the worst thing happens, it is my duty, it is their duty to make sure that it does not fall into the hands of the Concordat.
Well, let's make sure that doesn't happen. Is there any, here's another question. Is there any like, weaponry upon the wall? Perhaps a cauldron for some boiling oil, or perhaps some other sort of maybe giant rock.
I'm thinking more Maginot Line than boiling oil, but I think I'm guessing, this is probably, from what we know of Coronatus, it's an old city, right? Like they're old bunkers, defense points, how we've been through most of the forgotten tunnels. I think that the western edge of the city is probably fortified, right? Like to some degree, it's there.
Wait, you said the tunnels.
That's right. I mean, we have the hidden passages all under Coronatus. I mean, there's the catacombs, the mines.
Do we have the western side of Coronatus? Those tunnels. Do we have those mapped out?
Seldom pull them up.
Yeah, Jasper was making sure that he sent all the information he could gather. He's been talking to COG members nonstop. And the collective knowledge that we've gotten has expanded those tunnel maps, multifold in the last day or two. People are showing us what they remember from their childhood, and we are able to guarantee that these tunnels are there and are linking up. We're seeing these. I've been sending out drones, and they're being able to map them as the minutes come by.
And I think, we see on the map, right, like it's populating with more of these tunnels showing up, getting layered
on top of the map. It's like, okay, very interesting.
And so, I think, like as we see, like, right, there's like this coordination happening between these different groups. I do think Thea probably pulls Desmond aside slightly as there's like, maybe like all of these voices who've been popping in, right? We see like the discussion kind of like growing. But I think Thea maybe wants to pull Desmond, not full out of the room, but aside a moment. She looks you in the eyes and she says, it means a lot to me, Desmond, that you are here with me right now, that you're not in Sedge, that you're not off planet somewhere else. This is our city. and I'm proud to defend our home together.
I certainly don't share this same sentiment as much as you do. I always kind of thought this place was just somewhere I was from and not exactly a home.
But you're here.
Where else would I be?
Yeah. I think that could also be the end of the scene. I think it's better to end on like a good line or like a good moment than it is to try and like put all this like connective tissue in there, because we can just fill that in with,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So with that scene concluded, we now we'll just go around the table clockwise. So that is me next, huh? Yeah, that is me, young Seldom Rowe.
We've like talked about the apparatus being distributed,
Yes.
but Seldom Rowe wants from the quest protection to protect the apparatus.
Yes.
What does that look like in your head?
I think, we've seen bits and pieces of it. I think that the apparatus grows in nodes that spread out. And so I think that there are probably several of these like clusters or nodes spread across the city. And probably buried somewhere deep below Coronatus somewhere, there is like a central node, right? And I think for Seldom Rowe, protecting the apparatus here means ensuring that its capabilities, its like actual physical manifestations, are not co-opted by the Concordat, right? And I think it has ways to stop itself from being co-opted, but like that might mean killing the network in Coronatus, right? It would wilt, right? It would sort of self-destruct, and she wants to prevent that from happening. If the city falls, all of the apparatus inside Coronatus will largely have to like self-terminate to prevent it being co-opted by the Concordat. And she wants to prevent that. And also wants to, who knows? There's a fundamental technique that the Concordat might have to stop the apparatus from destroying its own like outreaches. The apparatus is in many ways the thing that keeps the ring going. If the Concordat could figure out a way to poison it, to stop it, to turn it against the ring, right? This is like these are the things that keep Seldom up at night. Okay, I think I know where this is. I think who is there, where it's happening, what is going on. I think that this is Seldom in the hangar. Carta is there, right? Like maybe this is like standing near the semaphore. Right, there's like a hangar near here where we are mobilizing and like outfitting units and like kind of like preparing to move. And I think maybe Zed and Bitters are here as well. What's happening is Seldom has brought Carta this little, I think she's standing in front of Carta right near the semaphore. I think like armors are being like loaded up all around us, right? There is this, there's like, like forklifts and like little like hovering platforms that are carrying like huge belts of ammunition, and they're getting loaded into armors. We're seeing like this mixture of ring armors, makeshift like civilian machines that have been retrofitted into weapons of war, and then we're also seeing like the actual military units of the Coronatus Defense Force, right? All of these units are like kind of like being outfitted. People are kind of like, as we speak, right? Like there are troops rolling out. They're heading to the west gates. They're heading to the north gates. They are preparing to meet the siege at the walls. And I think, Seldom has caught up with Carta right as he's like, kind of like the semaphore is getting loaded up with ammunition as well. Zed and Bitters are nearby preparing the arrow lifter, right? The dart. And I think, I'm holding this like black hedron, right? That is the size of like a water bottle. It is covered in these alternating black and white like kinetic tiles that kind of keep flipping. I think they're even doing it in my hand, right? It is a seed of the apparatus, a tool of the apparatus. And I think, I'm looking kind of, as I'm approaching you, Carta, I think you can see that there is like a kind of like a battle playing out on my face, right? Mm-hmm. Like I look torn and concerned, even underneath like the heavy like visor that covers like the top half of my face. Right, you can like see there's like a note of confusion, apprehension, and I think I call your name out across the hangar, like Carta.
Carta, seeing the emotions playing out on her face. It's well, you always know something more than I do. What's going on?
And I think I extend my hand with this like hedron towards you, but I'm still kind of holding on to it tightly at first, even as I kind of extend it your way. And I say, I've been working with Rebus Actual, using his his surveillance technology in coordination with the apparatus's own capabilities. The apparatus has been able to identify unusual fundamental signatures among the troops outside the wall. It's their thaumaturges, it's their relic machines, it's the most potent aspects of their offense. And I think she looks from you, she looks to the arrow lifter. You're our best marksman. If there's any chance that you could take them out before they hit the walls, before our troops have to face the fundamental chaos that they will wreak, I think that you would save a lot of lives.
What in our arsenal is going to stop that? I've seen their fundamental powers in ways that the people defending that wall right now could not even imagine. I will do it. There is no question in that. But with what?
And I think at that moment, Seldom looks down the length of the hangar, and we see it is like on like a giant, flat, like floating, like platform, like a cargo moving platform, kind of coming down the length. It is like singed and like battle scarred, but I think maybe our camera would have recognized this from an earlier shot. It is like one of the gun battery cannons from the beacon itself, right? This I think it's like a weapon that looks enormous. It looks enormous even compared to like the semaphore, right? Like
it's even goofy for him to hook the semaphore holding it a little bit.
Not so unwieldy that the semaphore can't wield it, but like that it would not be. The semaphore probably couldn't like run around and carry it.
Right.
And then I think she looks from you. She looks to this giant cannon that is being slowly brought down the way. And then she looks over to the arrow lifter where Zed and Bitter are. The apparatus has already done the calculations. The dart will support the weight of the semaphore and the cannon. The air is going to be your best chance at getting a line of sight on any of these machines before they breach the wall. And then I think, she looks down at the ground and she looks back up to you. The apparatus has shown me the likelihood of your chances of survival if you take the dart out over the incoming forces. Nothing in the ring is demanded. You don't have to do this.
If it's our best chance, then I do. Seldom, I don't need to know the odds of my survival. That is not what's important here. But I do need to hear it from you. I've seen what the power of the fundament does. I've seen it and how it affects roads and the redshift. Am I going to be able to handle this? Survival or not? Is it even going to be something I am able to do?
It's like a look of anguish crosses Seldom's face, and I think she looks again to triangulating the dart, the semaphore, the cannon, and like this little hedron she's holding, the tiles like click and clack rapidly in sequence, and she takes like a heavy breath. The semaphore will support it. The dart can carry the weight. You're the best shot that we have. If anyone can do this, it is you, Carta, but you don't have to. We can try another way. You've done so much for the ring already.
I'm standing here taking breaths. Quince Elector's not doing that. There are many others who are not doing that. We're going to get up in that plane. Talk to Zed and Bitter. We'll figure it out. We need to get Jasper in here now. I need to be able to tell him how to defend the wall while I'm up there. Seldom, we've worked together long enough. I know I don't know as well as you, but I've learned how to read that machine well enough. I know those clicks and clacks. They didn't send out a resonate. We'll see you when you get back.
And I think, reluctantly, she hands over the apparatus hedron, which will connect to the semaphore's targeting computer, will highlight these fundamental signatures for you and enable Carta to pick out the most potent forces amongst the invading force. And that's kind of all I need there, I think.
Woo! All right. Getting up in that plane. I'm excited.
Zed and Bitter, they don't want to do it.
Yeah, we're
They're too scared. No.
Actually, turns out very, very frightened to do this. So,
no longer yokels; they're Yinzers.
Yinzers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's my scene, and I think that's actually works out really well. We wrap around to your scene, Tim. I don't know if you know exactly where you want to start. If you want to take a second to think about it.
Yeah, okay. I think that this scene starts with Carta, Zed and Bitter's, Jasper Psalm. You know what? And I think Rhodes would be there too. Dez is I think anyone can be here because this is, again, another moment around the table being like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going up there. Jasper, this is in your hands. You've been trained. You know who is You know who needs to go where our strength lie, and who holds that strength.
Can I pitch something?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not to take your steam out away from you.
No.
But what if we jump past this?
Just
like,
in the sky.
Right? Like in the sky, like maybe it's like we get Jasper, like instead of like the speech before you go up, like Jasper on the radio on the ground as you're in the air.
You're right. Just jump to the scene. It's in the air. We don't need to have the...
What's the action here? Like...
With Carta having the apparatus kind of showing him where these fundamental targets are.
Kind of a strafing run, like flying out over the force and trying to pick off like the high value targets, right?
Yeah.
So maybe there's like something here about like coordinating the defense around you as you are like out in the air taking these shots. When I pitched that idea, I was in my head, I had the image of the semaphore like leaning out of the back of like the open.
Yeah, that's what I saw too. Yeah, like literally leaning out and taking pot shots. Yeah.
Yeah. Then maybe it's Jasper. The moment that back door opens up, I'm going to start firing. We'll catch them a little bit off guard, I think. But anything you can do to distract them there on the ground, to not turn upwards and start firing at us, we'll take it. I know you've got people on the wall in the right places. Light them up.
Yeah, roger that, Carta. Make it back in one piece. Just give me the signal.
So I think that, we're seeing the airlifter's above this like cloud of dust, and it looks like there's nothing to be seen. And the only choice they have is to dive down into the sand. And for a while, looks like they are lost in this weird swirling torrent of sand, and it's whipping across it. You hear the noise, and as it seems like they might not be able to pull, the camera would be shaking. It cuts through and is kind of just this open field of the Concordat approaching.
It's like a weird Eye of the Storm kind of feeling,
Right.
Like maybe our stomachs are kind of dropping as we drop through this cloud barrier, going through the turbulence, and then we're dropped out.
Zed, Bitter, spin it. And the airlifter kind of goes and makes a big turn, and Carta's there in the back, just kind of like, as the back turns and it looks like they're headed away, like just boom, boom, like this cannon. It's a mounted cannon, and it is just like a gun that is usually set, again, off this beacon and has never been seen used in this close combat, and it is just cratering Earth where it doesn't hit its targets. And when it does hit the targets, it is something even the Concordat was not expecting to see this close. And it is just... Do we have a color for it? Is it like a blue fundament color again? Is it a...
Freak what you feel, baby. Yeah. What do you want
Is
this
the
to be?
fundament blue?
A lot of the Concordat's energy, like manipulation, has been described as blue, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
Right? It's not the only color.
Does the beacon have a different color that it shoots off?
Yeah, why not? What are we feeling?
Maybe it's just like a...
I think green's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like green. Yeah. Just like turning, like just blinding. The sky goes green for a while. And it is just... It's like lightning in a like a storm like this. And it is just turning the sky. Ground beneath it turns black, where these absolutely massive fundamental bolts are like striking the ground. I think in these moments, Carta is thinking back to the times that he spent with Seldom Row and learning how the clicks and clacks of these tiles work and what kind of messages they're sending to him. And they are ringing true. He is able to, in this moment, as the apparatus works, and with the more that it gathered from, Rebus Actual's surveillance as well, he feels it. Like, he can feel that he is hitting these targets. He knows. It's almost like to a point where, in a way where he has normally would feel like not worried about hitting the target. There is not that fear. There is like, this is where it's telling me shot goes off. Any of the radar that we have, one of those targets disappears from that map. It is no longer there. These dots of, blue little circles or whatever on the map of the invading Lilac Legion, the targets start to drop off, and it's going great, but I think he also has to come face to face with the anvil, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I think like probably in the distance, right? Almost in response around it, right? Like this kind of like lightning starts to like crackle in the air around this thing. I imagine it's like a bolt of lightning, but like almost like the colors are inverted, right? There's like an absence of light where it strikes that misses the dart, and strikes like the wall beyond. And I think the things that it like where that bolt strikes, it's not like an explosion. It doesn't like blow it up. I think the wall just starts to like almost like disintegrate, just kind of like the things holding it together like disbond. It starts to crumble away. I think probably Jasper, right? Maybe we can get like a little cut of Jasper somewhere in this of like cogs moving through the tunnels. Jasper looking to an assembled number of cogs behind him. Remember, Card is counting on us. Let's keep our boy safe. And then like a sudden flood of light into the tunnels as like a trap door above is opened, right? And these cogs are like popping out, with bazookas and like kind of like hand, not handmade, but like homemade, like improvised explosives, right? Tossing them out amidst the troops of Concordats and armors marching by, and then popping back down under the sand.
Very sick.
Lining up the defense, right? Like the cogs moving in purpose to protect Carta, right? That's like Jasper trying to hold up his end of the bargain.
And seeing that, Carta knows that the amount of people who are down there watching his back, like he hoped, and just turns to Zed and Bitter saying, "We have to get closer."
Well, if you say so.
Oh, man. Oh, jeez.
Beautiful. That's a great end to a scene. You want to round out this challenge, Rhodes?
Yeah. I'm going to pick up like shortly after where we broke from the kind of council chambers as we all split off in different directions, kind of breaking from there. Rhodes is, I think, going to lead like the mechanized cavalry charge here to defend the wall. And so I think the first scene coming out of this is, I think where the pillars exit, this long stair lined in colonnade we described last time, kind of leading down from this Parthenon, is probably where forces are sort of marshaled here. So I think as we're seeing some of that, the pillar, I love, I think Mitch said, I don't know if this was your intent, but the pillar statuary is the civil defense like column rules. So I think you're seeing the pillar statuary here kind of like loading up with the what did we say, blue and gold of the kind of civil authority. There's kind of the amassed like cog machines, some of these things that are like scrabbled together, and I think that we're getting what's there of the dozen or so ring affiliated armors, and somewhere on that stair lined colonnade is the redshift as well. And I think as Rhodes starts walking towards it, the thoughts in his head can, of course, I think drift to Hyacinth a bit. And I think Rhodes is sort of on edge. Memories of Feldspar, I think, cross through his mind, right? And like, I think even overhead, I don't know, actually, is there Concordat in orbit around us too, like capital ships above?
Not over not like hovering over the city. Somewhere out there, in the orbit around Coronatus, there is a massive flagship, yes. Like,
and I think you can probably see it, right? Like kind of behind the clouds, I think, as this like lightning still kind of licks through the sandstorm, even if it's diminishing. And thoughts go to Hyacinth, of course. I think that Rhodes knows he's out there. Maybe near the anvil, maybe on the other side, but he knows he's there. And I think walking to the redshift, mounting it in, like I think climbing up the rungs along the side of one leg, sidling in, knowing it's sort of come to this. And I think with a bit of grim resignation into the cockpit, I think everybody is here in some way, shape, or form, right? Like Des, Seldom, like if this is kind of the assault, I think everybody is probably here to some degree. And as Rhodes, I think, opens a wide channel, right? Like loading in here, and I think is probably half in, half out, but speaking across the band. It said there are no conscripted officers in the ring, and that's true to some degree. But there comes a time when your hand is forced, and you have to make a choice. Here on Ember, no child should aspire to the life of a freedom fighter. This wasn't my war. Not the first, likely not the last, certainly not my favorite, one I thought I could avoid. But they've brought it to you, and this hour is nigh. But unlike the forces gathered outside our gates, we don't answer to a single voice. no Hierophant like the Concordat, no bosses like Meyer Grenfield and his tower in the Commonwealth, but instead, we're governed by the many. I'm here with you, not as a soldier, not to recruit you, not to convince you, but I'm here as your equal to fight one more day. I think, as the many moons around Imber revolve, so do the petty powers of this planet. I'm not here to convince you that the ring is going to be in charge or take the lead. I'm only here to convince you that this is what's right. And I think with that, we see this, column sort of marching towards the Western Wall. And the vision in my head, anyway, is playing with scale. We've seen kind of the more colorful side of Coronatus and fits and starts, markets full of life and sunny days when things are nicer. And it's probably some kind of reflection of that, right? And I think on the sidewalks, you're getting kind of block by block, fighting as we get closer to the wall. I think people on rooftops, I think there are some smaller kind of walking armors with, almost like a balcony around the waist, soldered on. People are kind of climbing on whatever's there to kind of mount this up. I mean, we won hearts and minds, right? That was kind of the goal for the squad. And I think this kind of march down the street, you're seeing people coming out. Probably not everybody, but those who can are. And as we push forward there, I think the explosions are kind of just ripping, and you can see the outline of the wall here. In my head, it's, kind of sandstone-ish, but fortified. There's thick cabling and turrets and minarets. And I think as Rhodes is closer there in the redshift, as we come up to this gate, I don't know, what's the gate look like?
Huge, heavy metal, industrial, not elegant, right? Big pneumatic presses to open and close it, right? This is a machine that's ancient but works, right? And that in that real Star Wars way, right? Where everything's got the patina of age to it, right?
And so I think this big heavy door, Durasteel thick door, I think you can start to see it's probably, I think, maybe glowing orangish from heat from other sides of this occasional salvo. Where is everybody else in this?
I think I'm taking off in the aerolifter.
So yeah, we know Carta's up in the air, and I think we probably see it, right? So we get closer to the gate, you can see the dart here, and these what you were talking about with the beacons cannonade here. I was imagining those as these big heavy bolts, right? You can almost see arcing, wet slaps on the earth as this crackle of kind of fundamental energy splashes across. Where's Desmond?
Well, where were you again?
I think Rhodes is kind of leading this push to defend the gate.
I think Des is already on the wall.
You're on the wall.
I'm on the wall. I've been climbing this whole time you were giving that speech.
Are you in the Mercuria?
Yes.
And I think this scene here, right, is I think we're just seeing eruption of this cannon fire, and Rhodes in the redshift, I think is gonna try and kind of leap up on the wall, and I think holding this particle lance overhead kind of just lets out this rallying cry, right, which is just once more into the breach, essentially, right? And I think with that hand from the redshift reaching out overhead ignites this lance, and I think jumps over the far side and over the line, right, into this. The thought, I hate to fall into it, but the thought in my head is Minas Tirith, so it's just a sea of this marshaled forces here. And I think the camera gets a couple of quick cuts, right? Which is, one is kind of dropping down into this mass of white ceramic armor. I think mechs of different sizes. And I think I actually forgot, I'm trying not to kill anybody. I think just pushing back, right? Which is just with this, kind of slashes here, just sort of swiping aside, trying to cut a line for anybody following. And I think is quickly overwhelmed. I think you're starting to see these piling up, these smaller machines. I don't know, you got any color here, Mitch, on the Concordat side?
I imagine, yeah, right. There's Caesuras, right, which are these kind of they look, very intentionally similar to the foot soldiers of the army, just blown up to armor size, right? These knights in white ceramic armor with black joints. There are these Caesuras, which I think fight with, some of them are fighting with long rifles that fire directed energy weapons, but I think some of them have blades. They have long swords. They fight in close quarters, sweeping into the enemy forces of the ring and the city itself. And then these troopers, I think we see some of them, like, I imagine it's not just like marching down the streets. I think it's like, you're starting to see them like climb onto rooftops. They're setting up like turrets that are like kind of opening fire on the defending forces. And probably because, like, why not? It's like, I think, bring back something from earlier in the season, right? Maybe as this battle is happening, right, for a moment, I think maybe you think that it's almost as if it's raining. There's this like this persistent right, light tinkling sound that sounds like raindrops. And I think one of you realizes it's not like raindrops falling amidst the sandstorm. It's tiny little pieces of glass. And then I think there is like a flash of light approaching, and another flash of light approaching, right? You can see arcing tendrils of lightning and electricity arcing through the air. And maybe we get like a cut, right, of like there's like a 2 or 3, right, near you, Des. On the wall near you, there are some of these like COG members in these kind of like makeshift armors, right, that are like maybe the less mobile ones. They've been stationed on the wall so they can just fire down. A bolt of electricity threads its way through the air and explodes 2 of the armors next to you. There's a rain of shrapnel and fire. And then crawling up over one of the rooftops, coming into view, its elongated neck stretching and bending as it peers forward.
Ugh.
It is the comprehension of grace.
Oh no.
This kind of this simian proportioned armor carrying this filigreed Tesla coil on its back that is like firing off bolts of electricity. And it's I think I described its face, right, as like a ceramic or like a porcelain like recreation of a human face, right, unmoving, as it kind of like this like segmented giraffe neck kind of like cranes over the battlefield and then like locks onto the site of Rhodes in the press of battle against the other Concordat troops. And we get the bright blue of like power welling up inside this coil as its pilot, Erides Tremolo, prepares for her second encounter with Rhodes Rampart on the battlefield.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think like just kind of revulsion, right? Which is like, I thought this was over, and I think like it's funny here because we're playing with like scale and size of this, which we've been, I think, on a smaller like level, but I think the redshift is just moving towards it, almost like Rhodes maybe not really, it's blurry, right, like who's driving, and maybe this is some kind of reflection of the dust moth, the synthesis, but it's almost like something's in the kind of battle meditation, right? It's like we're just straight to it, and I think kind of leaping and bounding kind of through this sordid battlefield here, I think that you would, the viewer, the camera anyway, would start to see like the kind of dripping kind of opalescence, right, as this like secondary form of the redshift I think kind of takes hold here, and this sleek, almost like ferrous fluid, kind of liquid orichalcum version of the redshift kind of bleeds to the forefront. And I think in the flash of an instant, I think leaping to the air, kind of grabbing that human looking face, the visage of the Ascension of Grace, I think leaping over, hand over it, and just I think like slamming into the ground here in like a flurry of blows. I just like this long segmented neck being the thing that like pulls it off balance.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, the raining glass is cool. Like I think this, kind of like, I don't know if these salvos are kind of going off all around us, but I think throwing it to the ground, right? Even, I don't know if this is too quick to just like end it, but I think Rhodes is trying to just, I think even like spinning the lance around, just like kind of like, on the ground, trying to slam it into the chest of this thing.
I like the idea of this fight ending like suddenly and brutally.
Oh, because they didn't see the second form.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if I can like throw like the, there's a consequence mechanic here, right? Where it's like you can add a a thing to a scene, right? Like, and this is kind of in that vein. But we've seen, the red shift transform like this before. We've seen what can happen when it does that. And we talked about the last time that you were in this form, this feeling, right, of like an immensity behind you, of like a leviathan kind of standing behind you, right? Like that feeling in your mind. And maybe there's like a way that like in the movie version of this, like visually we get like the red shift standing over the comprehension of grace with the lance buried in its chest. And it's not really there, but we do get the silhouette of like something much larger standing behind the red shift. This kind of like visual expression of like Rhodes's internal state.
Oh yeah, sure. It's very anime, like the big looming shadow.
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Like whipping around would be, I think just like, again, these weird flanged voice, like kind of the chorus of voices kind of shouting back, right? Like child's play. Show yourself. Couldn't do it on your own.
Do we want to end there?
Sure.
All right. I think we know who might show up in our third challenge.
Yeah.
Now the scary part.
Yeah.
We got to see if we succeeded at this challenge or not. Okay, so having all played a scene in the challenge, we will now finish the challenge. We will discover whether or not we have succeeded at repelling the invaders who are storming the walls. We're going to draw stones to determine the outcome, and then we're going to narrate the results. So, first we're going to start with no stones in the pool, and then we will add 1 white stone and 1 red stone. Then each player takes 2 red. If your main character is unhappy about the path the Fellowship has taken, hold 1 red stone. If your main character actually wants the quest to fail, hold 2 red stones. Otherwise, hold no stones. And Malcolm, since you were the one to first play a scene in this challenge, why don't you, whenever you're ready, reveal to us how many red stones you're holding?
I'm holding no stones, no red stones, because I think that we did success. We were successful.
So Desmond is happy about the path the Fellowship has taken so far?
Yes.
All right.
I think we mobilized very well. I think that we're all on the same page. And they're not, the gates did not fall.
Then it goes to me. I'm going to hold 1 red stone. I think that Seldom Row feels like the apparatus, the god machine that she worships has asked her to trade the life of like one of the only people she feels like knows her on this world in exchange for a chance at success. I'm not happy about that. So I'm going to add a red stone to the pool. So we now have 2 red stones and 1 white stone. Carta?
Yeah, I think they're happy. Then I hold no stones then.
Okay.
I think they are happy about how this is going. They were given tools and they used them.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's big Carta vibes. All right, then lastly, Rhodes. Is your main character unhappy about the path the Fellowship has taken? Does Rhodes actually want the quest to fail? Or are you holding no stones?
I don't want the quest to fail. Happy about the path the Fellowship has taken. Well, yeah, I'm going to say no stones on this one.
No stones. So the second one, which is like very similar but has like a subtle difference, which is that we each take 1 white and 1 red, and then we ask, as a player, do you think the Fellowship did what was necessary to succeed at the challenge? Hold white if yes, red if no. We can start again with Malcolm. As a player, do you think that we did what was necessary to succeed at the challenge?
Hold no stones on this one. I think we did it.
Right, so that's a white stone then.
That's white stone. Yeah.
So that puts us at 2 white, 2 red. Now I'll get to answer it. And I'm also going to add a white stone here. I actually do think that we came together, approached it with like a comprehensive plan for trying to like meet them at the walls. I think we did what was necessary. I don't think we left anything off, on the table that we could have brought with us. What about you, Carta? Or rather, what about you, Tim? This is as a player. Do you think the Fellowship did?
I do think that each of us brought something that the Concordat wasn't expecting. Having the gun from the tower brought up close and doing devastation that they couldn't have foreseen. The red shift in a state that they have not had to face yet, really, to see it work and move that fiercely and directly. And I think that also, Des with the Desdemona brought together, the actuated statuary and the pillars and a more trained guard that they maybe thought were scattered, especially with Alloy Braithwaite thinking they maybe had more of a control within the city. He didn't break that open completely, and we were able to suture what could have been a way bigger divide. So I think we did, like you said, didn't leave much on the table for what could be brought to them.
All right. So that's a white stone for you. Nice. That is right now. That is 2 red stones and 4 white stones. That leaves us with Pete. As a player, do you think the Fellowship did what was necessary to succeed at the challenge? Hold white if yes, red if no.
I'm going to hold red.
Ooh.
Too much talk, not enough action.
All right. Fair enough. Well then, with all of that done, we put the stones in a cup. In this case, it's going to be a digital cup that we call a dice. And we are going to draw 2 stones. And the order that we draw them in and the colors that we draw will determine the outcome of this challenge. I think, Des, you are the one who started this one, so I think you should roll.
Okay.
So we are going to roll for our first dice. You're going to roll 1d7. 1, 2, and 3 will be a red stone. 4, 5, 6, and 7 will be a white stone.
All right.
So whenever you're ready, roll 1d7.
2 redstone.
Ooh.
Not a good sign.
Not a great sign to start. So that is a red stone. So that removes 1 red stone from the pool. So now, for your second pull, it is going to be a 1d6. 1 and 2 will be red. 3, 4, 5, and 6 will be a white stone.
Oh, 1.
Oof.
Another red.
That's a red.
Oh, rough.
So, when we draw 2 red stones in a row, a character betrays or is betrayed by the Fellowship and is lost. And we lose the challenge.
Fuck.
So I'm going to read what that means here. So just because we've lost the challenge, it does not mean that we have lost the quest. It is the third challenge, the challenge that we're going to play next, that will determine whether we succeed or fail at the overall quest. But here's how losing characters in Follow goes. When we lose characters because of the draw, they are out of the game. They may quit, die, or be kicked out of the Fellowship. It could be bad luck or a noble sacrifice. But however you want to describe it, they are gone. If it is a betrayal, which this one is because we drew double red, it must be a conscious decision which the side being betrayed does not want, whether that is the Fellowship or a character. If we betray someone and leave them behind in enemy territory, they must curse us for it, not willingly sacrifice themselves. But no matter what happens here, players are never eliminated from the game. You always get a new main character to play. If you lose your main character here, your minor character is promoted to be your new main character. If you already lost your minor character, which has not happened, we can introduce a new character to join the Fellowship. But if we lose our minor characters or promote them, we do not make a new minor character. From that point on, you only have a main character. The Fellowship may shrink as we play. So, some interesting possibilities on the table here. And being lost here doesn't have to mean death, but it does mean they are out of the game. They could die. They could be, otherwise, taken out of the Fellowship in some fashion, right? But in this case, it is a betrayal. Either they are betrayed by the Fellowship or they do betray the Fellowship. Does anyone have a strong, immediate feeling, or do we want to just go through the roster and talk about possibilities?
I'm down to talk, but Pete, if you seem like you had something you at least wanted to put forward.
Yeah, makes me heavy. I feel it's hard to even say, but I think I have it. And I don't know, I'm just going to put it out. I think it's the redshift.
Does that mean Rhodes?
Yeah, I don't know. We're playing kind of funny because it's like this, but we talked a little bit about, Rhodes doesn't really understand what this machine is. It's a Concordat relic, maybe through claim or something else. It's old and unknown, but the thought in my head is we've kind of toyed with it having somewhat of a personality of its own, or maybe an ulterior motive. And it's like those moments where the line is blurry. So I'm trying to think about what sows some complication for season 3. That's one option.
There is another, just again, if we're just talking about things, it could be something like Seldom Row, one of the 4 forerunners for who knows how the apparatus works, has to, for whatever reason, kind of leave a safe spot and do some kind of on-the-fly repair closer to the wall.
Where the node is corrupted or something.
And they get surrounded and just like, we cannot get to them, whether they die or not. It's
The only thing there is that, and again, because we drew 2 red stones, it's not just that we lose a character.
betrayed.
The character betrays or is betrayed. I have a pitch.
Hit us with the pitch.
This is entirely, we have to agree on this as a group, is one thing the game tells us, right? If any characters are lost, we agree as a group who it was and what happened. Here's one pitch. I'm not saying that this is the one we should do, but here's like one. What if Carta is betrayed?
Oh.
What if the apparatus sends Carta like a target, right? While he's in this arrow lifter, that is, it knows it's going to bring him too far, like too close to the anvil.
But it decides it's worth the risk to send him that.
Yeah, right. Because it's a logistics engine. It doesn't, or it could be Zed and Bitters too, right? It could be Zed and Bitters that are lost here and betrayed.
Yeah,
but, like,
I think it's. Honestly, I was going to say that too. Like like very similar scenario came across my mind, and Zed and Bitter are just.
Like the dart is downed.
The dart is downed, and they get lost in they die
it's not
within the
a
line of
betrayal.
duty. They're
But that's not
martyred. They're
betrayed.
martyred in the eyes of the ring. That's not a betrayal.
No, unless you do it, I think, as the apparatus deciding that Zed and Bitter is, as it runs through all the scenarios, that it's going, they don't know how to read it, and it's just telling them, go further. There's nothing to, the calculation is go further, and they don't know, so they're like, yeah, we should be safe. The apparatus is guiding us there, and it's just going, well, this is a loss we could write off.
I think it could be Carta or Zed and Bitter getting betrayed here. You know what I mean? Like, it depends on who we want to lose. But I think that, yeah, there is something there, right? If it's the apparatus offering, right? The apparatus through the hands of Seldom Row, maybe. It's been sending flight plans to the Dart this entire time, right? Guiding them safely through the kind of like incoming fire of the invading army. It's just that this time it sends one with Seldom's hand. It sends a flight path that will get Carta the shot, but will not get the Dart home. That's one idea. That's one option.
Yeah.
I think Rhodes betraying us in some way by like being consumed by the redshift or being like taken out of the fight by the red. You know, like I think that's also an interesting, right? If we lose Rhodes because the redshift goes into this battle fury, right? And you're no longer fighting to protect the wall. You're no longer fighting to save the city. You're just, you know, the sheen of white hot machine rage, right? Like that's an interesting betrayal.
No, I mean Rhodes has lost control of it before. So there's like some precedence to that.
And we also, you know, another thing to consider, we have not had a Rhodes and like Hyacinth meeting on screen yet, though. I don't know if that's like a thing we really want to hit in the third challenge. Are there any other ideas that jump to mind for people who could betray and or be betrayed?
No, I don't think any of the true like they're all true believers. Like we had Gates is solidly in, Jasper's like a signed up for this. To me, it's like between Rhodes and like Seldom with some sort of complication on what we mean by betrayal.
You mean like Seldom betraying Zed and Bitters or betraying Carta?
Seldom like betraying maybe some of the virtue of the ring, where it's like, you know, we're all together, we're all fighting, and the cold logic of the apparatus dictating there's necessary losses here.
But I think Seldom is not the one who would be lost here. I think she would do the betrayal, right? I think it's Zed and Bitters or Carta that are probably lost from this betrayal.
Right. And if Carta is not lost with that, you know.
It means he's on the battlefield somewhere
Exactly.
for this final. Yeah.
And then, you know, whatever our next mission is, getting him back or leaving it there on the battlefield.
Is it Zed and Bitters? Is that what we're, you know?
Yeah, it's them.
That they are just a calculation, sadly, that needs to be made to...
Yeah. How do you feel about that, Pete?
Good. You know, I'm like just thinking about what's kind of the most interesting piece here.
Yeah, I mean, if you have like a strong vision for like how Rhodes betrays or is betrayed here, I think I'm still open to that. But there's also more of Rhodes in this game of Follow that I kind of want to see too.
Yeah, I know. We got a whole other challenge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if it's more fighting, you know, and we have that beast of a machine.
Okay, then let's do Zed and Bitters.
Don't worry, we might lose another character on the next challenge.
Yeah,
so.
And then the whole thing overall.
Hey man, we might die all here. So
okay, so it's Zed and Bitter, and so yeah, I think we get, you know, from my perspective, right, we get Seldom Row, you know, at this apparatus terminal inside the kind of like defense force, like, headquarters, right? The war room, right? They're kind of like their version of the stage. She's got this apparatus terminal. I think, maybe we haven't necessarily seen this on screen, but like she's been coordinating with Carta, Zed, and Bitters this whole time, right? Like the apparatus is rapidly calculating flight trajectories. It's using all of this like observation equipment to like calculate the trajectories of incoming fire, likelihoods of incoming fire. And Zed is the pilot, we've said, right? And Bitters is kind of like the like co-pilot, is manning a lot of the other machines, right? Like radar and stuff. So I think she's been plugging this stuff in, helping the information flow. And I think from my perspective, we get this like shot of her like seeing like the machine computes the next flight trajectory, right? It identifies there is a Concordat armor that is sweeping through our troops heading towards like the northern gate. It's like a conglomeration of moving stained glass. It shifts every time it moves, right? It's like roiling over the battlefield. It doesn't have a solid structure, and it like swarms over, right? Like one of our like exterior outposts and moves on, and it just leaves like these like stained glass embedded inside, armors, inside
like a weird
bodies.
Kaleidoscopy kind of like
Yes, like
colored pieces shifting as it.
And I think seldom sees the next trajectory, right? Like high priority target. And there's like one path that's going to get the dart there in time to give Carta the shot before this thing hits the northern walls. But it's going to make the dart pass like within the radius, the anvil. And I think it's like her hesitating for a long moment. And then I think like we see the indecision playing on her face, the clacking of the apparatus engine next to her. See her lower her head, and then she hits submit, and then the image of that trajectory that we've been seeing, right, we see pop up on the nav computer inside the dart. I don't know. You're Zed and Bitters here. You want to show us how the last flight of the dart goes?
So I think we're going. Wait, is Carta still in the dart?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in the back.
You're in the back. You're hanging out the back. I think they're pulling closer. And they just zigged when they should have zagged, let's say. And they take a hit directly into the left wing of the dart, and they start tail spinning.
I mean, but it also was a calculated move that did let Carta get closer to make a shot.
Yes. So I think you did get closer, and you did maybe after the dart gets hit with whatever it was. This a siege tower, perhaps? I
think it's like a bolt of this like unmaking energy from the anvil, right? It like just evaporates one of like the rotors.
Yeah, evaporates one of the rotors, and then as we're spinning around, you're able to get a really good shot in. Maybe take out whatever node this electrical pulse came out of.
Well, I was just gonna say, so there's a thing here to also consider, which is that we failed the challenge. Also.
Yeah.
We don't hold the walls. What if all of this betrayal is for nothing, right? What if Carta still doesn't get the shot?
Oh, fuck. Yeah. God damn it. It was so beautiful in my mind.
Yeah, doesn't get the shot too. Yeah, no shot. The left rotor is eviscerated and evaporated. The dart is starting to spiral downwards. I think, Bitter's like, I don't think we're going to pull this one
doesn't
out.
Make sense. Yeah.
Zed is flipping switches, sweat rolling down his face. He gets on the comms. He tells Carta like, I'd fly out of here while you still have a chance. We only got but 30 seconds before we make contact with the ground.
What happens if we lose my weight? I can handle the fall.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you to do. Get out of here.
No, will you be able to take us going low underneath the storm? They're not going to be able to see you through the sand. Can you get down to the ground?
Low. I don't think you understand.
Tuck and roll.
I'll see you on the battlefield, boys.
Yeah, and I think the semaphore flies out of the back, is like falling, and then I think in the last moments, I think probably Zed turns to Bitter, and they have a knowing look in their eye that this is it for them, and they hold hands across the cockpit as the dart slams into the ground and bursts into flames.
I think like a explosion like rips where we just saw it fall. Is that also what like blows open the wall?
I thought we were far out there.
Oh yeah, okay.
But I think we see, right, this roiling mass of stained glass, right, wash through the streets of the North Gate, right? We've certainly fortified our defenses at the west, assuming that was where they would break through because that's where the damage was. But the Concordat is an unceasing tide. And this machine that is, just this like kaleidoscopic amoebic form, I think hits one of these gates, right? The North Gate. Its mass collides with it, and then we watch slowly from the other side as the thick Durasteel plates of this gate slowly become translucent and colored. They turn into the same glass of the machine, and then fractures splitting across this newly glassed gate, and it bursts open. And on the other side,
picking up pieces of the things that it turns to this glass. Like, is it?
For sure, yeah.
Oh, fucking Christ!
Yeah, and then it's spilling through the gate like a tide, and behind it, right, ranks and ranks of white ceramic armored Concordat troopers. Caesura's behind them, and high above the battlefield, unnoticed by most, as here and there along the wall, other lines of entry are broken open as Concordat troops start to spill into the streets of Coronatus itself. We see a shimmering, mirrored disc unfold out of nothingness above the skies of Coronatus, and then descending, emerging from its rippling surface. It's 7 ceramic wings circling behind it like flower petals. The weight of ascension makes its appearance on the battlefield. And I think that leads us into our third challenge for the night.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. We got one more challenge. Let's knock this bad boy out. This season's going to end one way or another. So we have done the siege. We've done unify rival city factions. We've done repel invaders storming the walls. Malcolm, Tim, you are the two who have not chosen a challenge yet. We should all talk about it together, but one of you two will pick our challenge, and you'll also decide who the first person to deal with it is. I think some of these, just at a glance, probably not. We're probably not doing deal with the spreading disease.
That would be a crazy thing to just throw in here.
We're probably not doing a witch hunt right now. Yeah, I think it's a little more high stakes than that. There is prevent people from leaving or abandoning the city. That's kind of interesting.
Feels not very Ring.
Deal with a weak point in our defenses. There's something there, you know what I mean? We may reinforce it or sacrifice part of the city. That's an interesting idea.
Ooh, we could try to...
we could do repel invaders storming the walls again. There's no reason, the game tells us if it makes sense to do a same challenge twice in a row. That is not...
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Or there's take the fight to the invaders. That's one of the other ones that kind of like...
I think, right, that was the other one that I was thinking. Just like, it's not a surrender, but it is a little bit more like we went in, not cocky, but with like, we'll be on the wall, we'll mount it. And now it's just like, the city's not lost, but it's like we are even more so fighting from like apartment windows. This is like way more urban combat of like, we know this.
There's also get reinforcements from outside the city, which... is a short list. There's Sedge.
Right.
There's the Drovers. Folks. There's Abel Selkirk.
We bring one person in.
I don't think that that's really viable, personally. I think they're probably coming to like rescue us, but I don't think they're coming as reinforcements at this point in time.
So then I guess it's deal with a weak point in the city's defenses, or...
bringing the fight to them is a bit, but we're on the... If we had succeeded at the last challenge, then I think bringing the fight to them would make sense. But seeing as we did not succeed...
Should have never held that red stone.
We weren't playing good enough for you.
So is this a repeat of Repel Invaders?
That's what I think, Tim. What do you think? Seeing as we only have one left and it's our decision, maybe we should agree on it. If you have another idea, I'm willing to hear it, but that's what I think.
The only other thing is, like, in my mind, this has been touched on. It's like Defenders of the Alamo. Like, at the end of the day, we're throwing everything we can. We are throwing barrels off of walls to crush someone below us. Like, and that's not quite, I guess, bringing it to them, though. That is still a defend
So we
the
can't
wall.
have like one of them isn't have the invaders take the fight to us, because that's really what's happening here.
Yeah. Bring it even further.
Well, defending the wall, I think, is that still. I think we're still doing that, and
so it sounds like maybe we're leaning towards continuing to repel the invaders storming the walls.
Yeah.
It's like our last chance to stem the tide before they've amassed such a large force in the city that we just can't hold them back anymore.
Let's wordsmith it just so it's like the challenge is like last stand or something.
Can I pitch something?
Mm-hmm.
Please.
So this is not quite the same, but deal with the weak point in our defenses. We may reinforce it or sacrifice the part of the city. Maybe this is like, maybe not quite dealing with a weak point in our defenses, but like reinforcing the beacon, protecting the beacon, right? Like,
yeah,
gather around.
That's the thought in my head. It's like that's the last bastion, the most important thing. Because if they take the beacon, then we're stuck here with them.
Yes, to restate the stakes. If the Concordat gets control of the beacon, they will be able to shut off any like outside system support for either the Commonwealth or the Ring. It will be just who's on Ember.
Okay. Yeah.
So that could also give it some of that urban fighting you were talking about, right? Maybe this is like deal with a weak point in our defenses, right? Protect the beacon, which means maybe reinforcing it. It also says sacrificing part of the city. Maybe that's like falling back, right? Like,
right.
Giving up, right? Like the parts of the pillars and parts of
Upper High
the Chantry of Dawn and Upper High Grove. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We're falling back to reinforce like the beacon itself.
Right. Especially if it's Upper High Grove, like the people who had money who wanted to flee, like maybe did. So they're just marching through bigger estates and like tearing apart what was manors of, the upper echelon of.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. So does that work for you guys? Does that sound good?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, who do we think? I guess I don't know between Malcolm and Tim. If you guys want to just double hand this one together,
who should go first?
Yeah, who should go first? Or rather, as the game says, first, actually, we have to say why it's difficult. The player, or in this case, the players who picked the challenge, describes the problem that confronts the Fellowship and fleshes out the situation. Tell us what makes the challenge difficult and why we need to do it. So if our weak point in the city is the beacon, why do we need to defend it, and what makes that difficult?
It's difficult because we are outnumbered, and we have a bad position, and we're hurt, and they have way more powerful, and they have more people, and they're better at war.
Better at war.
We fucking
just a few
suck.
Things. I freaking hate it. No one likes us even.
Yeah.
We'll just go home, whatever.
Cool. So then, pick the first player. The player who picked the challenge chooses which main character they think would be the first to decide how to deal with this problem.
I say, Des, you're in the city.
I don't want to go. I went first the last two times.
Okay.
I don't want to go first again.
Oh, I was saying you get to pick.
Oh, I get to pick?
Because you are in the city.
Oh, okay.
We are falling back to defend, the beacon. Maybe that is a bit more of a call where you want.
Is it Carta? Carta, who just got dropped in the middle of the ship?
Carta, I think it's either Carta or Mitch. Or Seldom, I should say. I think it should be Seldom that goes first, because then we can handle the main characters as wrapping up their final parts of this story, and they get their own little scenes, and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah, I like that. Set the pace. As a group, we decide how long we envision this challenge taking. This is like down to minutes or hours, right? This is
maybe like an hour.
An hour.
Yeah.
Hour.
Yeah, we got an hour. Okay.
Probably going to take us an hour to play this part out. So we're playing in real time, folks.
I think that who is there? I think that this is Seldom with her apparatus terminal, and where I think that we are in the base of the beacon. I'm with like Thea Desdemona. I am with some of these other members of the People's Council. Rebus Actual. I think Gates Technic is with us as well. Probably is like attending to wounded who have returned to us. But I think that like the primary like kind of like our force has fallen back to the beacon itself, right? We are establishing a new perimeter around the beacon. We are setting up our kind of war room inside the base of this enormous tower, right? We are like sending troops up the still functioning elevators on the sides to like man guns at the top. And so I am inside one of these rooms, and I think the inside of the beacon, right, is like these big, strange halls and rooms made out of this like kind of ashy slate type of stone. I don't think it looks like hyper technological. It has this almost fantastical element, right? It looks as much like Orthanc as it looks like a space elevator, and there are like in these rooms also like huge banks of machinery, right? They are there like installed alongside these stones. And there are, I think also like, I imagine a lot of like crystals as like an element of some of this like first era technology, right? There are like banks of machines like with enormous crystals like plugged into them or like extending out of them as like antennae or receivers. There are also cables that I've clearly been threaded through here as like later additions, right? You can see it's very obvious to look at certain parts of these rooms and see what was the first era stuff that was already here and what is centuries of accumulation. Old Chiropteran Empire machines, with Commonwealth brands on them. And yeah, in one of these rooms, I think possibly alone, Seldom Row is at the apparatus terminal. And I think she's got like a little holo map display, right? And I think there are 3 lights shining on it in different parts of the city. One of them, maybe even still outside the city, she is tracking the location of the Black Star constellation. And I think no one else is here physically with me, but I think that this is like a radio conversation. And I think it's actually with Rhodes.
Okay.
I think on a private line, Seldom brings up Rhodes, right? We haven't used the call signs that we came up with in forever, right? But like maybe it's
Tim uses them pretty often. Tim's like the only one, I think.
But maybe she does, right? So maybe there's a moment here where she's like, attention, Relic. This is Seldom Row. Do you read?
Relic here.
We've fallen back to the beacon. We're mustering as large a defense here as we can. It's our last hope to hold them off here before they can gain access to it. How are things looking out on the battlefield?
Not good. How do you think they look? There's reports on the comms of some kind of mirrored portal. Is that true? Is it near you?
I'm trying to track the signal. I know what it looks like. The apparatus knows what it looks like. He keeps moving around.
My concern is it knows what you look like.
And I think, this is post-sacrificing Bitter and Zed, and also maybe Carta, right?
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think there's a difference to the way Seldom is holding herself right now. Like, she has committed to the path that she is on, and some of that hesitance from before is gone. And she says, Rhodes, Troubadour gave me your files to read. I know about the events on Orcus 5. I know what the Redshift is capable of. We need you to tap into that power again, but it can't happen like it did on Orcus 5.
Can't happen here? What happened to Carta, Seldom?
The dart was hit. I'm still getting a signal from the semaphore, but I'm not sure if he's about. Listen to me. I've been working on something. You remember we connected the apparatus to the Redshift when we were looking for Installation Violet.
I remember.
I need you to come to the beacon. I think that we can modify that same connection. The apparatus could keep you from losing control of the machine this time. But without the Redshift's full capabilities, I don't think that we're going to win this fight.
Well, you can point me like a gun once I find my friend. I think he cuts comms.
I think she sends a message hoping that he hears, right? Think about Orcus 5. Think about what happened the last time you found him. I have something for you here at the beacon. Come here if you want to actually save this city. I think we get like end this and maybe on a shot of her. She's got another one of these apparatus hedrons, these seeds of the apparatus. This one's bigger than the one that she gave Carta before, right? It is more complex, right? We can see amidst this kinetic machinery that is flickering all around it, right? It's those black cables kind of like appendages, right? Just kind of flexing mindlessly in her hand. And that might be good for me there. I think that I got what I wanted. Seldom's pitch for trying to win this fight. You just got to connect the red shift to the apparatus, and the apparatus make sure you don't go crazy.
Perfect.
Simple as.
Yeah.
The ring is all about putting on leashes and chains.
It's just like, it's working together. It's teamwork.
Yeah, no, I got you. I'm just being a difficult person.
I mean, listen, I think, the way this is framed and shot, right? I would say that there is an element here of like Seldom's in a room alone making this offer. This is not over the open comms, right? This is a private line to Rhodes suggesting this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I do think there is an element of, if nothing else, shadiness to the way this request plays out.
Fair enough.
And that said, I think it's main character time. I'll pass the scene to Carta next, I think.
All right, the scene is moments after he hits the ground, starts rolling, looking around through the sandstorm, going on, checking the maps that are coming in on his screens of the apparatus. And he is realizing that there is not super far, a tunnel he can get into that is hidden throughout the sands that no one else there knows. So this scene is Carta talking to Jasper and Gates Technic. And as he's, the semaphore is running through, he's finding an opening that is just big enough, maybe. It's some kind of forgotten mining tunnel that we know. The semaphore can get in there. He's running through these tunnels. Jasper, Gates.
I read you, Carta. Jasper here.
We know they're heading for the beacon. They're headed for the beacon. But if they can't physically walk on the land to get there, then they have less of a chance. If we can take the tunnels out leading to the beacon, the city will crumble beneath them. Before they approach and before they get into these tunnels, find out where they are. If we can rig them to blow and get everyone back to the beacon, we'll lose part of the city.
I think Gates is like, we're falling back. Our people are clear already. I could rig the explosives in the next 15 minutes. Just get through that hole, take as many of them with you, we'll crumble it behind you. Highgrove's the catacomb it's always wished it was. A place where the wealthy and the old go to die. And they're all gone now.
We'll bury them there.
I think Jasper on the same, I'm out of the tunnels right now, we're above ground, but we can start making a slow retreat back, try and hold them off long enough for you to get set up, Gates. You give me the word, we'll beat feet and you can start blowing the streets here. Coronatus is going to look a little different tomorrow morning, I think.
Urban renewal zone, huh, guys?
Wait, Carta, where's Dez?
I've lost him. Once the arrow dart went down, dead and bitter gone. I'm trying to get I'm just trying to get out of here and back to you guys. We're gonna need everything we can at the beacon.
I think we get a shot of Jasper on a rooftop, right, with I imagine a drum fed grenade launcher, right?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And it's on the comms again. What's the status on Zed and Bitters? Are they with you?
No. After the arrow lifter went down, I couldn't see anything. It was black smoke and dust. We got too close. I thought I had a shot, and I didn't.
They come back as a Concordat nightmare. They're stitched together. The strength of two southern yokels come lumbering across the battlefield. It's two
cut that,
Don
'cause that's
Knotts.
actually maybe a funny
It's called
thing
the
we can do in
double
season 3. Shit, that's very good. And then maybe this is just interspersed with some more of this street fighting as the cogs are across rooftops and through back alleys, firing. I think we're also hitting smoke grenades and
right.
Setting up snare traps, just trying to slow down the Concordat long enough to get everything else into place.
Right. I also think it is. We know the city better than they are, so it's retreating strategically to get people down alleys we know will be over various tunnels, maybe, and
ooh. Maybe there's a visual, if again, this is HBO version of this, right? Is we get Jasper and some of the cogs performing maneuvers and tactics that we've seen them doing with Carta inside the guerrilla training facility, right? There's a little symmetry there, right? Where it's we get the same shot, but this time it's on the actual war-torn streets, not in the makeshift obstacle course down there.
Yeah, we're seeing people run, sliding over abandoned cars, sticking sticky bombs underneath them as they slide over and keep running,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely a mirrored moment in this scene. But I mean, beyond that, I think that is maybe the scene.
Yeah, I think we'll find out how well it worked when we roll these dice in a
Right.
minute, which I think puts it to Rhodes Rampart next. How you doing, Pete?
Yeah, I'm okay. I think I know here.
We're sliding into home.
Yeah, so we'll just like flash forward, right? Like I think the Rhodes probably finds himself into the this like tunnel run crew where like these detonations are going off, like kind of closing off part of the one of the entrances. What did we decide? It's like the north gate, or one of these points of entry anyway. And I think falling back to the beacon, finding fairly sizable, like I think defense. Like this is probably the last line, right? Like the kind of the last bastion here at the beacon, and circling up. That's what I'm imagining anyway. It's like we've literally formed a ring here, right? Like around the beacon, and I think like it is not exactly a favorable. I think like probably foray board in front of us, and kind of running back through here, I think whatever sliding into this, I guess I'm going to take up Seldom on the offer, and I think this is probably weighing a bit heavy on Rhodes because I think I don't know, I guess we're still probably in the secondary form, so I think with some sort of grim resignation, it's this feeling that he has to.
Can I pitch like a locale on this?
Sure.
What if it's like right, we see like on the ground below, right, there's this like circular perimeter of defenses that have been formed, right? You've got like mechs standing behind barricades like soldiers, up against like sandbags and things. What if we are like in an opening on the beacon that's higher up in the air? Almost like an open like a hangar on its like side, like we've got kind of get a little bit of a bird's eye view of the city. So we can kind of see like the defenses below us. And also, we can see, almost like, like threading their way through the streets, right? It's so easy to see. It's the white ceramic of like the Concordat soldiers as they're kind of like, spilling through different streets and alleyways, like an infection spreading across the city's veins towards its heart. And then, yeah, I guess if we're there, right, we can chat, or we don't have to chat. But I think, Seldom is waiting there, holding, this, like I said, this hedron, this like clacking tiled seed with these kind of grasping cable appendages, right? This node of the apparatus that has been built and designed for exactly this purpose, for communing with the redshift, right? This is what Seldom, maybe we could even get like a flashback if we wanted, of like, this is like a thing Seldom has been working on since the moment that you connected to the apparatus, before the mission at Installation Violet.
I think with some resignation, to Seldom anyway, when I let you connect it before, I believe I requested it was reversible. Is what you've put in front of me here now the same, or is there no coming back?
And I think, Seldom looks at you. The apparatus would never do anything to endanger the future of the ring, Rhodes Rampart.
I don't want to be a weapon anymore, a tool in your hands. I'm trusting you, Seldom. I've given a lot to the cause. I thought maybe this would be it. This would be the last of it. Maybe a place you could avoid it. The struggle would stop or slow. And it's come for us here, so fine. I guess it never really does end. But it's for the best, I hope. Just give it to me.
And she doesn't equivocate. She, I think, hands it to you. And, as soon as you bring it near the redshift, right, I think it knows how to slot its way into the machine.
I think it's worse. Like it's pressing forward. Like it doesn't wait for it's not just that it knows where to go. It's like it's already started before I took it into my hands.
The symbiote kind of just like.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thought in my head. But I think it feels good.
Yeah. I think off in the distance, right? This is why I wanted the sky level view. We see one of those shimmering silver portals open up.
Yeah. And I think that's what it's been coming to, right? And like, I think this, I don't know, what happens with this kind of shifting hedron thing? Is it like something, visibly different? Like, I guess what I'm imagining anyway is like, this sort of liquid metal orichalcum thing, that the redshift is like taking on. I think like it's almost like it ripples, right? Or like, for all the quicksilver in the sky above us, almost like the forms like undulating a bit here as this, I don't know, takes shape.
So the reason that she gave it to you, right, was to try and prevent what happened at Orcus 5 from happening, right? From Rhodes losing himself to the rage of the machine and destroying everything, right? Destroying Coronatus. And so What if it's almost like, visually, what if it's almost as if like these cables, right? The black cables of the apparatus are threading between these disparate pieces of the redshift, and it's almost like it kind of constrains it a little. It pulls it back in a little bit, right? It almost gives it like, a little bit of a bit more solidity to this like, this semi-liquid form. And then the other thing that I think happens, right?
Like it's bound? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, it's constrained, right? I think it's well, I described the sensation before, right? The first time you hooked up to the apparatus, there was this feeling, right, in the redshift sometimes when it's active, when the rage engine is firing up, when you are communing with like whatever sentience is inside the redshift. There's like like I said, this presence of like this leviathan behind you, this immense bolt. And when the apparatus is connected, there's a feeling like of a forest behind you, of a great woods, of something diffuse and spread out behind you, right? Like you've just emerged from a vast tangle of woods. With both of them connected together, you're getting both of those sensations, but also it's like there are whispers behind you, like someone's having a conversation behind your back. There is like almost maybe a sense of not fully disconnect, right? But it's like, these things are interacting in a way that is like superseding you or not necessarily bringing you into the fold. But at the same time, I think the machine's capabilities start to open up to you, Rhodes. I think you feel that power, right, that you felt before, right, when you were annihilating Concordat by Orcus 5, but there's like a different tenor to it, right?
I think you're right. Like it's this kind of swelling of that same feeling before of voices in unison. And I think for where it may have just sounded like a din of noise before, I think for Rhodes in the cockpit anyway, it's not just noise. And I think the voices kind of ringing are so many of the people along the way. Not just Gates and Jasper, Dez and Carta. Who'd we lose really quick?
Quint Selector was our
Quint Selector, sorry. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. And like Quint Selector, Utah Alexander, Cygnus Strand, Sojourn Vale, like all of these people. And I think for Rhodes anyway, it's just like an urging. But more so than just like fight, kill, destroy. It's preserve, to sustain, to keep this dream alive just one more day, I think. And more so than that, I think like Rhodes knows that it doesn't really matter what happens here, because I think in this moment of all of these voices ringing, it's some sort of reminder that it's not just happening here. And in this kind of symphony beyond Ember, I think reaching out across the stars, there's a dozen worlds in the same conflict. And I think the memory of all these different conflicts and all these years and all these fights kind of come together. And I think maybe that's the moment where I think this portal opens up. Is Hyacinth here now?
Oh, yeah. With like a burning fury, right? There's no preamble. There's no... I don't even know if he gives you like the Gundam villain speech of like, right, like now is the time of my triumph. Maybe I think it's just like emerging at supersonic speeds from one of these like silvery portals, more cracked than ever, right? The damage filled in by the roiling quicksilver liquid, and probably just like a frightening intensity.
Yeah, I don't even think Rhodes registers. And we're just there. We're in the fight already. And I think it's just like, I mean, if this was Gundam, right? It's like each sword crossing is like a different, we see the two machines, I think, clashing, but each time those swords cross is like flashback. Orcus 5. All these others, right? Like each time the blades cross, I think is like a snapshot to where we did it before. But this time it's different, controlled, faster, anticipating, informed, maybe. Almost like that the calculation engine of the apparatus is almost predicting it. Rhodes is there or out of the way or behind, in front, aside. And I think like it's happening faster and faster and faster. And I think to the bystanders in this, not bystanders, I should say, like compatriots in the Bastion line here, like it, I think starts to I mean, shit, it's the finale. We'll just go like full anime mode here. It's just like the glint, 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 like on all these different sides. I think is just the snapping kind of flurry here is kind of erupting around. I don't know. It almost feels like it's stalemating, but I don't know. You got anything?
I think, I mean, not stalemating, but like,
Not stalemating, but at least like, yeah.
I think, there's probably like a desperation to Hyacinth's actions, right? Of like, the sky is suddenly filled with these like mirrored portals, right? Like over and over and over, he's transporting, and you're like, chips and chunks of ceramic getting torn off the weight of ascension, right? Like, and more, there's a mirroring that starts to happen, right? As more and more of this ceramic is chipped away and it fills in with the quicksilver until we start to see a version of the weight of ascension that is like almost more quicksilver than it is ceramic, right? The cracks that have been filled in have been, so many of them have been filled in now that like huge swaths of the machine are, right, just like this rippling silver liquid, and it's in stark contrast to this kind of like flowing orichalcum form of the redshift, right? They start to mirror each other again in this way.
I think like in a flash, right? Like as I guess from we shift from the, kind of person level view to just us pilots, right? Like in just an expanse of white or something, this kind of inner space. Rhodes, Hyacinth. I think it's like again, like the scene is gone, right? Like the Coronatus is almost in another place. I don't think it's the other place that we were between these portals, but it's the two of them. And I think you're right? Like these are two mirrored images of both this kind of like liquid metal in between. And we, I think, are back on Feldspar, just like when we played last shooting, way back to the early days of Hyacinth and Rhodes. And I think we're here. You probably see, kind of the meld from the camera anyway of these two machines clashing to Rhodes and Hyacinth. I think we said they were like fighting with staves, right? Like for the kind of right to pilot the machine. And we're right here again, like thwack, thwack, kind of like cracking and parrying. And I think in a moment here, Rhodes maybe pressing the advantage a bit, just has a parry held for a second. I just don't understand. What is all this for? You do it again and again? You already burned a planet. You squandered your inheritance. You've made your point. They've given you nothing.
Pushing back off of you, right? Falling back into the fighting stance. It's not about them. It's about us, Rhodes. What we were meant for. What we're still meant for. Feldspar is a garden world. We are the fruit. And our maker, the gardener, is out there waiting for us.
Feldspar is ash. I think, like, kind of parrying back because of what you chose, and I think, like, again, hitting back. Why? It's not a garden. It's a pyre. Nothing grows on Feldspar. Imber barely ekes out a living. If you can't see reason, I'll cut you off. And I think, like, maybe we pan back to this. We talked about this off camera with, like, kind of what Rhodes had worked on with Selkirk and trying to kind of augment this particle lance. And I think we kind of like flash back to the machines, clashing in air here. And we see the tip of the particle lance here. I think we referred to it before as like kind of a impossibility lance here. And it kind of melds from this white hot to a sort of non-edge, right? Like this kind of black flickering in between. And I think Rhodes is just kind of screaming, right? Like at this point, both of these voices raised with the benefit of the apparatus, whatever this shackle is. I won't let you. I won't let you because this world has a chance. There's too many people here. There's too many lives at stake. There's too much death already.
Then stop me.
I will.
And maybe the final, like, bringing them in, charging together before we cut. And that leaves us with young Desmond to bring us home to save Coronatus and stop the Concordat.
Oh, will he though? Desmond is going back to the beacon with, I think he went through the pillars. He's picked up random survivors, maybe a few cog members, there's probably not a whole lot of them left. Let's be honest.
I think they're pretty battered and bruised, right?
Yeah.
they're probably
They're
pretty
rough.
fucking
Like,
busted.
Yeah.
Maybe Jasper's with you, right? Like his bedraggled group, right? Or like,
Yeah.
you know.
Mhm. Some civil defense force league members as well, and I think Desmond makes it back and is there like a bottom sort of like opening to like the base of the beacon, right? I think we talked about this before. People are filing in, and Desmond
It's
is
like a
walking
Yavin
up.
4.
Yeah, exactly. Here he is going down. It's going back into its like sort of quadrupedal position. The cockpit is low. It opens up.
Thea's already striding out from inside the beacon, right? She's gotten word that you're here, I think like probably sprints. Is Desmond getting out of the machine?
Yeah, he's getting out.
Yeah, right. Like sprinting to like hug you, right? Like has like for a moment lost the facade of like the like kind of like tactical leader that she's been during most of the scenes we've seen her in, right? Just a moment of like she's not injured, but I imagine she has gone from like composed to like is like covered in like soot, and like her cassock has been torn, right? Like has like in the shuffle also been kind of scuffed up over the course of like today's like battle.
I think Desmond is like physically shaking, like probably from like muscle strain of having to like pilot for this long. Maybe he has like a little bit of like blood trickling down his face. He doesn't even realize.
Oh, she's dabbing at it, right? She's got like
and he's like, "What? Huh?"
And then she's like assessing like the number of people that you brought back, and I think like the sky is crackling overhead with like the Rhodes Hyacinth fight happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think she hugs you again, right? And it's like no matter how this shakes out, we're together.
Yeah, we're not separating from here on out at all.
And then, I think, I think someone calls her name, it's like one of the keepers of the lighthouse. Like she can't stop doing her job for even this long, and it's like,
yeah,
I love you, Desmond. I'll see you soon. And she strides off to go attend to another crisis, right? It's just nonstop right now.
I think a voice calls out, then too, right? Like Gates calling out, like Desmond, and from the far side of this like hangar entrance on the base of the beacon here, and I think you can see Gates running to you, right? And I think in an instant before you're even like. It registers quickly. I think the weight of Gates kind of plows into you, arms wrapped around you. Thank God you're okay.
Barely.
But they came back. You brought them back. They're here safe because of you.
I brought them back. Maybe 50 or 60 of them.
The fight's not over. Seldom says there's a signal coming from outside the wall. And I think she like wipes like whatever trickles come back up here, right? Like with, I think not even with like a rag, just like her shirt sleeve. I hate to ask you. I can't. I know we're all on the bitter edge, but they need me here. The Mercury is the only machine that can get over the wall without detection. The SOS signal's coming just a couple meters past the front wall. After the pillar statue reactivated, the machines are free to grab. There's some comrades from the Open Palm. Friends of mine, friends of yours, friends of ours. I can send a small dispatch with you. We don't have much to spare. It should be quick. Can I ask this of you?
I think he, looks at Thea walking away. The door is starting to close a little bit, and maybe a perplexed kind of look on his face, and then looks at the Mercuria, looks at Gates.
I'll do it. I'll drive it.
No. That's not what I'm asking. I think his perplexed look in his face, like he locks in. He's locked in now. And he goes like, "I will do it. Send me the coordinates," and then he hops into the Mercuria.
Sent in and out. 20 minutes.
Snap, clip, invisibility shield. Heads towards I guess Wormtown. Is that where we think they are?
It'd probably know like the North Gate, right? It'd be like
North Gate,
like old bell tower kind of area.
Well, you said outside the gate, or is it inside the gate?
Like just past the pillars where they detonated that like cave in. I think. Some of our team got stuck on the other side.
Okay.
They're not able to kind of pass back through there, but they're putting out the distress beacon.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna head over there. I'm trying to think of what does it look like when we get to the. I think like maybe the distress beacon is coming from like a sort of maybe like wide open area. almost like maybe it's like there's like an amphitheater or something.
Oh, that's cool. The other, I think, like as you're making your way there, invisible, right, like cloaked, would be weird to also see like the Concordat sort of won here, right? Like
Right.
they're not
big
retreating,
time.
they're not like digging in. It's like probably sort of calm as you're
Mhm.
seeing like the enemy kind of advance and regroup. But you're able to slip through.
There's like a lot of scenes in like Saving Private Ryan, right, where they're like kind of like moving through like war torn but like largely empty streets, or they're just like troops moving like off in the distance.
Mhm.
You know, maybe there's like kind of that vibe a little bit.
Yeah, and I think he gets to the amphitheater or whatever, and I think that he, is like looking at his, his heads up display, and it's getting closer and closer and closer, but he's not seeing anybody. And he gets to like this stage of the amphitheater, and there's like the signals just sitting right there on the stage, just kind of beeping.
Yeah, you're center
Just
stage
There's
now.
no one around. Yeah.
It's just a beeping box that has been placed
Yeah.
there that you
Yeah.
walked upon.
Right, and it's like I think you hear Gates kind of on the comms. It's like, Desmond, what do you see? Are you seeing anyone? You should be right on top of it. And it's like you should be right.
Yeah. And then he's trying to get in. He's like, they must have left already.
Can I say what I think it is that happens next?
Yes.
Because I think it's very funny to do this kind of inversion on the first thing we saw Desmond use. What if it's like
Oh yeah,
chunk, and we see sailing through the air a grapnel anchor
Oh no.
that like
And another.
embeds in
Mhm.
like in the like one of the legs of the Mercuria, right? Or
Mhm.
like over it and then embeds in the ground under, like a network of grapnel anchors, like as
yeah, and another, and another, and another.
But yeah, I think you're right. Like a grapnel anchor, like another one, yeah, right.
Mhm.
Like starting
Yeah.
to like.
I'm getting pulled backwards.
I think figures start to like. There are people, right, like who've been hiding here, but it's not the Concordat this time, right? I think we recognize the sigil. You've seen it before in the Lost Crown Saloon. We've seen it before on some of the bodies that were surrounding the Lost Crown earlier.
Mhm.
And these are not people in white ceramic armor, right? It's Chiropterans. It is Night Flyer Syndicate, right? They've got the bat wings outstretched over the moon.
Oh,
It's like
yeah. I think we get some of those like tactical suited guys like slide down from the top of the like the overhang of this. Like you're
Amphitheater.
surrounded. You've
Mhm.
officially been ambushed at this point.
Yeah.
I think like
I think he maybe like jerks his arm and maybe pulls one guy and sends him like flying.
Oh
You
yeah,
know?
right. It's
Yeah.
got to be that, right? Yeah, there's a little bit of like back and forth here, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like we've seen Des. Des is a good pilot.
But it's getting more and more into like a Gulliver's Travels kind of thing. Like I think he's really tied up and pinned down, and now these guys are on top of him, and they're starting to try to like dismantle the Mercuria from the outside.
Yeah, I like that a lot, right? Like that it's like, every time you yank an arm, right, it then opens them up for like two more of them to like fire another set of grapnel anchors and like pull it down that direction.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're anchoring them probably, right? Like, imagine they fire them, they stick in there, and then they anchor it into the ground. So it like, because obviously a person's not going to be able to hold a mech down, right? So they're like stabbing these anchors that are starting to like web up the Mercuria. What's like, where's Desmond going with this? Or
I
what's
think he's starting to panic a little bit. He maybe like hits the mobility suite really quick to try and like burst out, but it doesn't do anything. He's still pinned down to the ground. There's no way to get out.
I think this is the right moment for it. Maybe there's a crack in the sky as Rhodes and Hyacinth meet again, right? Like this like artificial thunder fills the air, and once their Mercuria is like fully secured, right? Is no longer functional, right? These Night Flyer Syndicate members have disabled it enough to like hold it in place. I think. Oh, it's the same fucking thing that you use. It's the cloaking device.
Mm-hmm.
oh, flickers into view. Yeah.
On the stage near that beeping device, right? It like someone wearing it turns off.
Oh no! Yeah, who is it?
And it is a tall, handsome Chiropteran man. He is wearing, I think, like a dark cloak and.
Shock of silver hair.
A little shock of silver hair. I kind of like that.
Was this the guy that I met at the Diadem Royale that one time?
This is not him, because
Okay.
you recognize this man right away, right? You recognize him by his eye patch over his left eye.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you recognize him from years of running the streets together. It is the leader of the Belfry Boys, the former leader of the Belfry Boys, I should say, rather. It is the current leader of the Night Flyer Syndicate. It is the man who helped make this invasion possible. I think it is Salvation Still. And a moment later, beside him, another cloaking device dematerializes, and there is another Chiropteran, a woman, standing next to him. Bigger, I think, right?
Jocasta. Yeah.
Yes, this is his sister Jocasta. Bigger. I think she's holding like a railgun. I think she has like a big, long, like very techie looking rifle.
I imagine has like a very big grin and a vacant stare.
Yes, I have such a specific pull, but there is a Batman comic called The Long Halloween. I think they're actually adapting for like the Penguin TV show right now, but there is like a daughter of a mob boss in there who's drawn with like these huge blocky shoulders and who is like this kind of like real like murderous kind of like killer. And I think like, yeah, there is like a smile, like you said, a smile and a vacant stare. There's kind of like dumb glee on Jocasta's face as I think, she levels the rifle at the Mercuria. Salvation speaks. Desmond, I think it's time you come out and we have a conversation. I don't want to have to make Jocasta open that door for me, but I will. I think you know that.
I think we could talk right here.
Jocasta fires the railgun at the Mercuria, right? Like,
Yeah.
You in the cockpit feel the round, right? Like you can see both sides, like very nearly.
It's like,
knock, 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 Desmond.
The pressurizing sound of the cockpit opening you hear is the next thing you hear. Yeah.
And I think, he takes another step forward. What would he say at this point, right? Caught you in the ambush.
Kind of just goes, whoops. Like,
My bad.
oh, no. Like, he's saying that to Desmond, like, oh, no.
Oh, no.
Whoops. You.
Well.
I think it's this is all very unnecessary, Desmond. You could have gotten off planet. You could have gone to New Rivalo and lived a life as a thief. You could have stayed in that jail.
It's a terrible option. I think we both know that there was no way that come on, it's me. I'm stubborn. I like things to go my way.
That's why I had you put in the prison in the first place. And I think Jocasta takes like another shot at the Mercuria here.
You don't need to keep doing that.
Like sparking probably like critical alert lights. So I think the Night Flyer Syndicate has a Desmond under ambush here. Where do we want to bring this to a close at?
I know what I'm going to do right now. I think, Desmond has, he's stepped out. His hands are just kind of like maybe at his hips,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he's just trying to keep this conversation to go on long enough. And he's pulling through a couple of different scenarios in his head. And he knows that he's well fucked right now. There's really no way out of this. There's probably like 15 people around him. Jocasta has a railgun pointed towards him. Salvation, you always did think 10 steps ahead. But I think you've forgotten one thing. How absolutely reckless I am. And I hit the self-destruct on the Mercuria.
Blow it up in the square. I like that. Maybe we cut on like the shot of like the interior cockpit of like the like screen rapidly blinking as like the self-destruct sequence initiated is flashing.
It's like 10 seconds, and he like maybe like Jocasta takes another shot at him, and he like does like a backflip off.
Well, maybe we let's leave a little room there because we do have to draw some stones in a second.
Yes, we do.
We might lose another member of the party.
Yeah.
Is that the last scene? Is that all of it?
Yeah.
I think that's it.
That's it.
All right. Hey, who wants to do the most gut-wrenching thing in the entire world and put an end to the season?
I already did one, so.
Am I the only one who hasn't rolled?
Yeah, I think it's you, bud.
Yeah.
So first we have to ask some questions first.
No.
Yeah, baby.
No.
Let me get my sheet out. Let's tally this one more time.
Oh, Christ in heaven.
Okay. So it works slightly differently for the third challenge. We start with no stones in the pool, and then we add 1 red and 1 white for luck. And then we add 1 white and 1 red for each successful challenge and for each failed challenge. White for success, red for failed. Just one of each. Right? We succeeded at our first challenge, we failed at our second. So there are 2 red stones and 2 white stones in the pool. Now, who started this one? I started this one? I guess I'll go first here. Each player takes 2 red. If your main character is unhappy about the path the Fellowship has taken, hold 1 red stone. If your main character actually wants the quest to fail, hold 2 red stones. Otherwise, hold no stones. I think I'm actually going to hold no red stones here because I think Seldom Rowe carried out the will of the apparatus and, is in some ways unhappy about some of those outcomes, but I think is overall actually pleased about having done so. So I'm going to hold no red stones. And then we'll go to Carta, rather.
Yeah.
Is Carta unhappy about the path of the Fellowship we've taken? Does he want us to fail?
I don't know. Doesn't want it to fail. I don't think he's unhappy. We had to retreat to the tower. That's what we've, at the end of the day, had to defend. And the people who are gathered there are still fighting, and we're trying to protect those who can't.
Fair.
They had to sacrifice some of the city for it to happen, but he is happy that we did what we did to keep those people safe.
Rhodes. If Rhodes is unhappy about the path the Fellowship has taken, hold 1 red stone. If Rhodes actually wants the quest to fail, go ahead and hold 2. Otherwise, hold none.
No red stones. I'm holding no stones. This has to work. Back against the wall. This is kind of the last ditch attempt.
Right.
All right. And then Desmond. If Desmond is unhappy about the path the Fellowship has taken, hold 1 red stone. If Desmond actually wants the quest to fail, hold 2 red stones. Otherwise, hold none.
I think he's holding 2 red stones. I think he deep down he wants it to fail because this is it's all becoming I don't know. I think maybe he thought it was kind of a game first, and now it's this is his first taste of actual real total war, and it's too much now. Maybe I shouldn't hold 2.
Holding 2 is pretty intense.
Holding 2 is pretty intense.
Yeah.
You also were about to describe something.
I know. I think I'm thinking about him and me. I kind of want the quest to fail, but I don't think he does. So I'm just going to hold 1. No, Desmond doesn't want it to fail. I personally, Malcolm, I kind of want it to fail.
If your main character is unhappy about the path the Fellowship has taken, hold 1 stone.
Yeah. I think
is Desmond unhappy?
I think he is unhappy about the way that this was undertook.
I mean, it's gotten pretty sloppy out there.
Yeah.
So holding 1, that puts us at 3 red.
You did just kind of get misled.
Yeah. It definitely didn't go right for you.
Look at it my way.
All right, now here we go. Now now we get to talk to Malcolm. As a player, do you think the Fellowship succeeded at the challenge? Hold white if yes, red if no. And we'll go in the same order, so I'll start. As a player, do I think the Fellowship succeeded at the challenge? Blew up some streets. Well, we did juice up the red shift with a apparatus. I'm going to put a red stone. I think no. I think we are fighting a losing battle. Carta, Tim. As a player, do you think the Fellowship succeeded at the challenge? Hold white if yes, red if no. So just to repeat here, the challenge was, again, to deal with a weak point in our defenses. We may reinforce it or sacrifice part of the city. Do you think that we did enough to succeed at the challenge?
I gotta hold a red stone.
There's a red stone, baby.
I think that they're powerful, and we resorted to blowing up streets, and we didn't really see how that played out in any part of the game. So I hate to say it, but I think red. Oh, fuck. God damn it.
Right, that's 5 red, 2 white. Peter, as a player, do you think the Fellowship succeeded at the challenge?
The beacon's standing.
Ooh, true. They are not there. Fuck, that's a good call. Fuck.
I'm holding white.
I'll take it. And last but not least, Malcolm, as a player, do you think the Fellowship succeeded at the challenge? Hold white if yes, red if no.
Well, yeah, by that logic, I mean, I think I was kind of thinking about the entire 3 chapters or whatever, but I think Des did his part. He brought survivors back. He went out looking for more. So I think that based on that, it is a success.
Fuck, see, I didn't even think about it. Right. I'm going to stick with what I said, but the beacon is still standing. They are not.
The beacon
control.
is still
that
standing,
is
but
very,
like,
very true.
So after that leaves us with 5 red stones and 4 white stones.
which is, I think that's a good spread.
Yeah, it could be worse. So, Tim, I think it's your turn.
Yep.
If you want to roll 1d9 for me, 1 through 5 will be red, 6 through 9 will be white.
Flash roll 1d9. Here we go. 5.
That is red.
That's red.
Oh, that's red?
Yeah.
That's red.
It's 6, 7, 8, and 9 are white. Yeah.
We have 1 red, but now that evens out the pool. There's 4 red, 4 white.
That's
So if you can roll 1d8, and 1 through 4 will be red, 5 through 8 will be white.
1d8 is what we're rolling?
1d8, yeah, because we don't put that stone back. So if you draw a white here, we win the challenge. And if you draw a red here, shit goes real bad. I can't look at it.
1! Oh!
That's 2 red.
That is 2 red. So on 2 red, a character betrays or is betrayed by the Fellowship and is lost. And we lose the challenge.
I'm sorry.
We got... No, it's not your...
It's not your
hey,
fault.
I know. I feel...
That's
Those goddamn dice.
So what that does mean is that we have failed at the siege. Coronatus is lost to the Concordat. And there's a lot. That's a lot. There's a lot to dig into there. There's a lot of questions we're going to have to answer about that. A lot of them I think we're not going to be able to answer until we
I feel like I just got fired.
we will be coming back in season 3 to answer some questions about this. But first, we have to describe losing a character and betrayal. We have lost a character who is betrayed or has betrayed the Fellowship. Anybody jumping out to anybody here right away? I have 1 pitch, but I'm open to others.
Carter's the furthest from the fucking beacon.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of just out in the field.
It's not Carta.
What's your pitch?
Yeah, I hear a pitch.
It could be Seldom Row.
Yeah.
Is it because it's like in retreat?
It could be.
My thought for the epilogue, which is like evacuation.
And they have to stand holding the fucking wires together as like...
I think Seldom... I'm thinking a different direction, which I think is that Seldom leaves first.
Oh.
The apparatus... Seldom sees a point where the tides have shifted, and we're still fighting, but it's a lost fight, and she starts shutting down the apparatus nodes.
Yeah, you can see like the tendrils retracting, yeah.
Our telemetry starts going down in the middle of the battle, right? Before...
Yeah, we're hearing people being like, we're hit, where'd they come from? Like,
all across the city, yeah, the apparatus cables start withering, or they start retreating, pulling down into the earth. That's like one. That's a 1 pitch. I'm open to hearing other ideas for betrayers or betrayees.
that's pretty heavy betrayal.
It's pretty bleak. Yeah. I'd also feel like it's sort of out of character for the ring, but who else?
Maybe it's just it's just statistically just makes sense. Yeah.
It's a betrayal by like a larger picture than we are thinking. The apparatus
that we
is like,
couldn't even see.
The stratagem is grander, yeah.
Or maybe, if we want to make it slightly less bleak, maybe it's not just like abandoning everyone, but it is like it's giving the order to retreat before
we think we're done fighting.
Yeah, right? Like, maybe there's something there with like dismantling the apparatus and like telling the ring units like to like start retreating. I don't know. There's something, that's just like, that's one idea I had. Does anybody have any other ideas for different characters, different betrayals?
Not that's gonna...
Well, unless it's Gates was in on the Night Flyers thing.
That feels pretty out of left field for like the character we've...
I think it also puts us, for whenever we return to Ember, a situation where whoever's left it, that's where we pick up, or even Coronatus in general, figuring out what happens when they are not connected to the apparatus, or what that means, where we pick up where it has retreated to, and the thoughts and feelings people have about how you now reapproach it as a thing that we trust as ring members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're not really going to hear a lot of surprise out of Rhodes, I think. Thread through all this has been like, what is the apparatus's investment in Ember? Does it care about us, or does it just see us as pawns on a board? That one fictionally kind of has the most resonance to me. Oh boy, it's tough though. This one hurts.
I mean, the thing is, we did not succeed. It is a bad play either way. So what are we thinking? Is it Seldom Row?
It's Seldom
I think
Row.
it's got to be Seldom.
Yeah.
So,
We're in the epilogue now, right?
yeah, so after 3 challenges, the quest is over. We succeeded or failed, but our characters live on. Some of them, anyway. Each player briefly narrates their main character's life after the quest. Show us whether your character feels the quest was worth it. You may stick to just the immediate fallout of the quest, or you could go big and summarize the rest of your life. It's up to you. We won't be doing that. If your main character was lost just before the epilogue, you can narrate their legacy or memory instead of switching to a new main character if you prefer. So maybe I'll start here just to give like the betrayal of Seldom Row.
A great, somewhat bellwether book, but a heartbreaker for us.
Yeah, right? Yeah, the betrayal of Seldom Row. Seldom is in the beacon, right? She's in one of these rooms looking at this apparatus terminal. And I think we see her looking at what we probably understand to be like a map of the apparatus itself. It's spread across Coronatus. And there are nodes of it marked on this map. And in some of those nodes, in the kind of northwestern portion of the city, right, in Upper High Grove, in the Chantry of Dawn, in these places that the Concordat has reached already, they start to blink red. There is an alarm blaring. The Concordat is seeking the apparatus. They are intentionally trying to access these nodes. Already, even as the fighting rages on, they know where to find them and they are attempting to access them, right? And I think it is Seldom, staring at these alarms blaring. It is, I think if she hadn't already had to do this today, if she hadn't already had to pull the trigger on Zed and Bitters, as it were, maybe she wouldn't have it in her to do this now. But I think her hands fly across the terminal, the apparatus terminal that she is working on. And then, our camera cuts to all across the city. We've marked like the primary visual signifier of the apparatus is these black cables winding through locales in Coronatus. All across the city, I think we get images of them. Some of them like amidst the war-torn rubble. Some of them in other sectors of the city where they're still unharmed, active, thriving. They start to brown and wither like vines. There's an almost like an organic quality to them as we cut back to this view of the apparatus network across Coronatus, and node by node, they start to shut off. And on the battlefield, we get the inside view of armors and their navigational systems as their feeds go dead. They suddenly lose track of enemies. Rebus' actual system is suddenly bereft of its the logistic engine of the apparatus. And at the same time, across the rings networks in Coronatus, the call to retreat starts to sound. And damn,
I think we're seeing like regime change, right? Like it's not just Rebus's like, camera feeds are going down. It's like we get like camera cuts, right, of the glass house on the top of the Lost Crown, right? Like the Night Flyer kind of thugs are there too, right? Like we like kind of see them like kind of crashing down, breaking glass, right? Like
that's like my loss here. I think if we want to do a big picture of the city, right, it is unchecked defeat across the city. Yeah, you're right. Night Flyer Syndicate taking up residence inside the Lost Crown. It is the sound. It is Concordat troops moving through the streets. It is like the sound of gunfire and like shells going off lessening more and more by every passing moment. It is, the sight of the anvil reaching the edge of Coronatus's walls. We lost this. And so, as the epilogue, we get like an image of each main character, after the quest. And I don't want to go too far forward here. I think we should stick to kind of the near immediate aftermath, because I think there's a lot of space that we can leave open for when we come back to this game and this story. But I would like to see, if everyone has like a little bit of like, where do we see them as like as the city of Coronatus falls to the Concordat? What image do we get of each of these characters?
As he emerges from these tunnels that he just recently set explosives off in, trying to stop the advance. I think one of them leads them back, or one of the tunnels leads back to a room that a lot of the kind of defenseless masses are gathered in. And as the call for surrender is ringing out, Carta starts getting people towards the train. We get Eleanor Fade coming in, and we're trying to get people out of the city, retreat out the back, away from the advancing forces. And I don't know if he gets on the train or not, but I think that in this moment, he said he was going to protect the people of the city, and having failed done that, there's no need to keep them here to die here. This feels like a crushing defeat, but Ember is a bigger planet than the city of Coronatus. There are other places to hide and to perhaps fight another day, but these aren't the people to fight for that next day. They're the ones to live for it. We see the last cut of Carta loading people, kids, COG members who want to stay and fight, knowing that, like, these people also will need defenders. I think also maybe looking for Seldom Road. Like, where are the logistics we just had that told me that this was working or was a possibility of working?
You mentioned kids, and the thought to my head was like, Carta helping these like refugees onto the trains. Essentially, it's like, well, where are your parents? Where are your parents? Like, are you guys all out here alone?
Yeah, I think he sees himself too. Like, like, are we just going to have another whole generation of kids who are, crushed by a power that if we can get them somewhere safer? So yeah, I think looking for Seldom Row, getting people on the trains. We see Carta lost on the platform of these tunnels, getting trains out of the city as it crosses the wall and fades into desert that goes on beyond Coronatus.
Yeah, the flight into the night.
I think Dez is, or like we get a cut of like camera's like on a dolly shot, sort of like going down like an alleyway or something. We don't see anything, and then Dez is sort of flickering into existence as his personal cloaking device stops working, and he's like whatever, his coveralls are shredded, he's breathing heavily, and he's definitely being chased. He doesn't know what's going on. He stumbles sort of into, maybe this sort of courtyard, and he falls, and he sort of lays down on his back, and he's staring up, and, the camera pulls out, and there's like, ash falling like snow.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Like in Highgarden with all these like statues and.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we flash back to Coronatus a very long time ago, and Dez is like he's a child, and he's being beat up by all these kids. They've got him surrounded, they're shoving him around, and he's like trying to defend himself, and he's like, I'll take all you want, I don't even care. At a certain point he gets socked really hard and then pushed down, and he's on the ground, and he puts his wing up to protect himself, and he's expecting another beating coming, but he hears like get away from him. Like, get away from there, beat it, scram, or whatever. And, he's like carefully bringing his arm back down, and he looks up and he sees Salvation, is also a young child. He's like, are you all right? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. Whatever, man. And he goes to get up. He's like, hold on. And he puts his hand out, and they sort of hold hands. And as he's pulling him up, Dez sort of comes to, and he's being pulled up. But it's
in the present?
In the present, and it's Thea's like pulling him up, and she's like, we need to get you out of here, like what happened? And he just can't really talk. She's trying to get some words out of him, but there's nothing's really coming out straight. And so they scurry away into the coming dusk. I think it's starting to be like nighttime now.
Yeah, I like that these are taking place as like the sun setting. Yeah, that's really nice.
I think Rhodes has not heard anything other than the sound of like these two machines, I think, locked in combat here, has really been in this moment kind of taking up all of his headspace. And I think in this clash above, all this stuff has happened in the time that he's been crossing swords with Hyacinth here. And I think at some point in the tumbling, like in the air, I think probably fails to anticipate some strike. And I think catches a hard one, and it's like big ass like Gundam blow of defeat. I think hurtles to the ground, like shattering through some 3 or 4 story building here, and like in the rubble. As the cockpit screen I think flickers back on, he sees this ship, I think, starting to leave, right, like lifting up Seldom's kind of escape craft, picking up and pulling away out of the city, and realizing maybe he's lost track of time, not realizing how much might have happened, coming to grips, I think bolts up out of this rubble here just in time, I think, to like take another glancing blow off of the weight of ascension. And like Hyacinth is on top of the redshift, and I think is kind of just like the redshift's taking a pummeling here, and managing to stand for a second. I think Rhodes panics, as I think that lumbering shape of the anvil like crosses over into this, like it just kind of cleaving destruction, and it kind of dawns on him that the window's closing, the fight's over, they've lost, he's in retreat, and I think he just sighs and maybe kneels.
Ooh.
But I think is still holding the lance. I think he, like, probably parting shot there is like seeing the redshifts, I think, like fist kind of tighten on the haft of the lance like one more time, and I think even in this kind of momentary pause where the camera waits and we sort of see the machine slump, but I think you hear the servos of the joints whir, and like even from a kneel, I think tense up one more time, and you probably see the foot dig into the rubble, and maybe the camera cuts on like you see the machine start to rear up like it's gonna fight again.
I like that.
Damn, dude, it's my birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Pete.
Coronatus is lost, but the war is not.
The war is just beginning.
We cut from this. Time has passed. It's unclear how much. Not a lot. Maybe hours, maybe days. We get a crane shot coming in over the now broken ring of defense around the beacon. The defenses there shattered. There's a battalion of Concordat troops in this courtyard around inside the base of the beacon.
I imagine they're all like praying or something. Like they're all standing around it, like with their hands up, like a Sunday service at a mega church or something.
I think they are, at least at first, maybe this is like what they turn into. I think at first they are all watching because there's a procession. It is, she has come down from the anvil. It is the commander of this legion, Arata Shantant. She's, I think, walking through the rubble, and I think there is like, a kind of a train of assistants behind her who are carrying. She's wearing this, like I said, this cloak that is like a tapestry. It is like 40 feet long. It is the martial history of the Lilac Legion, and there's a procession as she marches down the avenue past the shattered defenses into the courtyard of the beacon and looks up at it. And I think maybe that is that moment, right, Malcolm, where I think as she looks up at it, she raises her hands, and then, in unison, like these ceramic soldiers all turn and look to the beacon as well and raise their hands. And I think that is the end of Risky Standard Season 1.
Whew.
It has been a joy and a pleasure to have you here with us, Risk Takers. I'm sorry that we're ending on a little bit of a dour note.
A cliffhanger.
Don't apologize.
But I'm excited to return to this world after a brief sojourn to the world of the Wild Sea. And when we come back, we will discover what Imber looks like after the taking of Coronatus by the Concordat forces. And perhaps we will discover the true nature of the mysteries of Imber and the lattice that lies beneath it.
See you next time.